All right, welcome everyone. Good evening. This is the special combined meeting for the plan of. Somebody's got it? Okay, Plan of Conservation and Development and the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Today is Thursday, 28th of September. And the meeting is starting at 6:07 p.m. Sorry for the tardiness. So I'm going to call the meeting to order, and I guess I'm going to turn it over to our consultant, Francisco Gomes from FHI Studios. And he's going to be addressing the commission, but apparently Maureen wants something to say. So go ahead, Maureen. Yes, go ahead. You want to do a roll call?
Yeah. Diane Jorsey.
I feel like I'm Ranger Andy, remember? Joan Veely.
Andra Millard.
And John Dyken.
And just for the record, I do know Brian Rogan has reached out to me and he's running late, but he's hoping to make this meeting and he will definitely be here for the planning and zoning meeting as well. All right.
And then on mine we have
Online, we have Jennifer Coppola, who's the town attorney. We have the our consultant, Francisco Gomes of FHI Studio. We also have James Mahoney, who works with the town with economic development. And we have the seal of approval, the Yankee Peddler. And then we also have us in living color. So those are the ones attending online.
Thank you.
All right, Joan, we ready?
Oh, absolutely. You are on.
Okay. All right.
It's all yours. Run with it, please.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. And it's very good to be with you again. We have a very straightforward agenda this evening. This will probably be one of the most straightforward meetings that we've had. Because for the most part, this is work that we've done. We've done this work step by step. We've walked our way through it, and now what we've done for you is we've documented that. We've put all of those discussions and decisions in one place to help you move forward with. And just to get everyone on the same page here, within our scope as part of the POCD, we were tasked with reviewing the affordable housing plan and its recommendations. And Jim and Maureen had the foresight to anticipate the fact that the affordable housing plan was due well in advance of the POCD. And that once we developed the POCD and a year had passed between that and the affordable housing plan being adopted, that we'd probably have more insight into issues surrounding housing need and housing and land use across the town that would be informative to the recommendations of the affordable housing plan. And that has proven true. So what we had spent the last meeting or two on was walking you through some of the options that were in front of us, what the affordable housing plan recommended, what our previous zoning work had identified as opportunities. And we discussed, basically what do we want to move forward with? Where are the real opportunities here and what's going to get traction? So we've taken all that work and we put it together into a document, and that is basically an update of the affordable housing plan's implementation table. And I want to walk you through that this evening, and I'll just highlight some areas that are potential areas of action that we can move forward with immediately. So that's our agenda this evening. I don't think it's going to take too long, and it's my understanding you have a regular meeting after this. So I'm going to try to move us through this expeditiously if possible. And then finally, we'll close out by talking about what our next steps are in this process. Sorry, I need to exit my presentation now because the document is in Word, not in PowerPoint. And I'm gonna zoom in and let me know when it gets to the point where you folks can read it.
Francisco, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Just checking from a
Yeah,
message I got.
and,
Okay,
and I could hear Joan clearly. I think as long as you're speaking into the microphones, I can hear fine. All right, so our affordable housing plan has an implementation table, and that implementation table basically summarizes all of the recommendations of the affordable housing plan, for which there are many. And it identifies potential time or recommended time frame, responsible parties, etc. And what we've done is we've reviewed all of that. And we've reviewed our recommendations from our zoning study and the POCD itself to find how to basically figure out how we can bring the affordable housing plan recommendations, which are a little more than a year old now, up to date, because a lot has actually changed in that year plus. So that's exactly what this table documents. Now, as to what we will use this table for, I'll walk you through that. One of the ideas being that we've identified a number of zoning items that we do have some remaining budget on left within our POCD contract that we can get going on. The budget we have left, it really isn't enough to do all of this, but it's enough to get us pointed in the right direction and get moving on following up on some of these recommendations. And so I'll briefly recap those and we'll talk about what that could look like. And then furthermore, the town could potentially secure more funding, and Jim may be able. Jim, you want to provide an update on any knowledge you have about, what kind of funding may be available, or what the town might be able to support with respect to moving forward on any zoning amendments?
Sure. I mean, Maureen, do you want to take that one?
Or Maureen?
so there is still funding in the POCD account for,
A little bit.
and in our, in what the town has in the budget for POCD. If we exceed a certain number, I can't remember right now what that number is, we would have to go back to the town council with regard to moving funds from the POCD account. But each year the POCD is being funded at this point to keep the kitty rolling so that we hit the funding for the 2033 plan. So it seems to make sense to be able to utilize those funds, and we haven't found a reason we can't utilize the funds that are in POCD to do some of the work, keeping in mind that, we're trying to raise a kitty as well for 2033. So
Right.
there's not some enormous expense at that time. But if the better the plan is and the more implementation of the plan now, the funding is used in the right manner, because
Yeah.
you're accomplishing the goals of the plan, and then maybe the next plan doesn't need that same investment because you've accomplished something.
Right.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yes,
It
So
does.
we do
Makes sense.
believe there is we know there is some funding, and I think it'll be a matter of determining what the estimate is of what it'll cost to have FHI continue to assist the town, and then how that balances out with what is available in that budget line.
okay,
We might just start with 3,000 or so that's available in the existing, and kind of get a feel for how much effort this is going to take, and then do a supplemental contract after that. So we'll figure it out.
Okay, very good.
okay,
You guys are
Yeah.
on board with that, Jim and I will continue to go down that path.
Okay.
yeah, okay.
And so can you all see the table clearly? Is it big enough on your screen?
Well, I do have this handy dandy printout in front of
It
me,
is the
so
one
this
you-
really helps.
That'll help.
It's the one
that'll
you
help.
sent, correct?
This is the same table, right? We're just looking at my Word version in case I need to make some notes on the fly, but yes.
Okay,
So I did
Correct.
print it out for the commission, so, for the committee, so they all have it in front of them.
Okay. All right, it's not my intention to read through every word of this, but I do just want to quickly recap. Some of the decisions we've made and some of the things that have been done. So going down the list, starting at the top, the first strategy in the affordable housing plan is a very obvious strategy, is to provide additional affordable home ownership opportunities. We have some ongoing work on that is or needs to be conducted. There's also work to evaluate town land to see what, if any, town land that's owned could be repurposed. And so most of that rests with the town manager. So with these recommendations, I really want to focus more on what your commission and planning and zoning has control over. Now, the third item, 1.3, evaluate zoning strategies. I'm happy to report we conducted that. That's work that we did together. We produced a report of our recommendations, and we're, for the most part, we're following that game plan with respect to updating this affordable housing plan. So the recommendations in here are consistent with those zoning recommendations that we work together to develop. So that task is complete. As I mentioned, the work task to the town manager is either ongoing or needs to be initiated. With respect to the Berlin Housing Authority, I highlight this in yellow because this is an amendment we made to the language. One of the recommendations, or strategy 2, is to provide more affordable housing for seniors. And we identified the Berlin Housing Authority and their capacity and their role to help with that. We amended the recommendation or the action item to read as follows, with the yellow part being added. So the recommendation or the action is to continue to support the housing authority project approved by P&Z to build 50 units at 143 Percival Avenue. If, and here's the part we added, if the housing authority demonstrates that it's making progress towards securing project financing. Where there are a lot of directions you can move to provide support to initiatives, and really you need to make sure you're putting your backing behind something that is getting traction. And so that is what this caveat is intended to stipulate. All right, and I understand this is an effort that has been underway for a while, and the gap hasn't yet been closed on. Okay. And along the ways, if anyone has any questions or comments, I'm happy to receive them. The next item, and I highlight in blue the zoning items that I feel we have an opportunity to move forward with and are worth some consideration with respect to what are our next steps? What do we try to advance? So this is part of an action item to evaluate other organizations to basically figure out, is there another organization in addition to the housing authority that could build senior housing? And so we've amended the language a little bit to reflect the fact that our zoning review also supported this concept. So it reads, as recommended in the 2023 zoning review, prepare an amendment to the zoning regulations to allow entities other than the Berlin Housing Authority to build elderly housing in single-family residential zones by special permit. In our zoning recommendation report, we did stipulate how that could occur. And with the idea being that the town would acquire land for this purpose and then potentially sell it to a developer. That way the town remains in control of the process and where these developments would occur. And we've outlined that in a lot more detail in our zoning review. So I highlight it in blue because this is potentially something we could move forward with. It requires the zoning to be amended, which means we need to develop some language around that. We need to get it right to ensure that it affects exactly what we intend and nothing else. So it's a little more than adding a sentence or two to your zoning regulations. We really need to make sure the language is crafted properly to enable exactly what it is that you would like to achieve. Okay, but in the end, could be a relatively simple amendment to the zoning regulations.
This is June. I have a question,
Yes,
if you have a moment.
yes.
So as we're looking at our 830G and so forth, applications that we're having and referring to the paragraphing that we just read,
Yeah,
if we look to other entities to build housing for elderly, should that be a concern on the size or control that we have to make it, of good size or comfortable size for our seniors? Will we open up doors to battle with what we're providing for our elderly?
yeah.
Is that making sense?
Yeah, no, I understand. It's like, what level of control do we have over what's built? And, fortunately, if the town owns the property and the town is the one conveying it for a purpose, all of this can be negotiated and stipulated in a contract. Right. So our recommendation that this is something controlled by the town versus just opening up land for any developer to come in as a private developer, acquire private land and build, what they're interested in building. If the town is selling land to a developer, that can all be negotiated in a contract. What type of units for what level of need. Our zoning review does recommend that those units be affordable. So this puts the town in a position to control what is built.
Also, there are parameters in the existing zoning, regulation that pertains to this that would apply.
Yeah.
Whether it's the housing authority or somebody else, and that's all something that can be looked at in the zoning analysis when we draft the amendment.
I have a question, Francisco.
Sure.
As item 2.1 talks specifically about 143 Percival Avenue. I know that's an ongoing project for, I don't know,
Yeah.
30 something years. So the bottom line is that I think that if there's going to be any development, whether it's going to be oversight by the housing authority or by the planning and zoning commission, I think it should all be encompassed by a special permit.
Okay, well, let me.
I note that you have that in 2.2. You talk about the
Yeah,
zone by
and-
special permit, but I think the special permit should apply to the 143 Percival Avenue piece, if we're talking specifically about that.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right.
Anyone else? All right. Okay, I guess we're going on to page 2 then.
All right. So the next item, and this is something we discussed quite a bit, is including standards within the zoning regulations for universal design accessibility requirements as part of development, certain percentages. And we made some basic recommendations in the zoning review, but if we were to actually start drafting an amendment, we have an opportunity to revisit that, to take a look at how some other communities handle this and come up with a number and a definition. I know when we discussed this, we had a lot of questions about, well, what does that mean, universal versus accessible? And in preparing a zoning regulation, you'd want to define all these and in detail, so it's very clear to a developer what the expectation is. So if we do work in this area, we'd have an opportunity to really flush this out.
Questions on that? Anyone have any questions? Okay,
Okay.
Mm.
All right, and this one here, in here, we're in strategy 3, which is to refine existing zoning regulations to better support affordable housing. And 3.1 is to review residential zoning districts for opportunities to add additional housing types may not be allowed. So we did that review. All right. And that review recommended allowing 2-family homes in the R11. And let me go ahead and highlight that in blue as well. And now really to follow through on that recommendation, we would need to draft some zoning regulations to allow that and ensure that what we draft allows for development that's compatible with other development in the neighborhood. We had initially talked about if we were to allow 2-family homes in the R11 where it was once allowed, that we would use the R15 bulk area standards for single-family homes to apply to duplexes. So that's something that would need to be revisited to make sure if it is allowed, we get the numbers right, and we think about parking and all the other requirements to ensure that any new development is compatible. So there's a decent amount of work with this one. Okay.
okay.
The next item, we came to agreement that at this time, you're not interested in pursuing mixed use options at either Webster Square or Ferndale Plazas. That was a recommendation of the affordable housing plan. We did evaluate it in the zoning review, and we came to agreement that at this time you're not interested in pursuing that type of development in those areas. So you'll see we've updated the table to reflect that, and that's highlighted in yellow. Okay. And the next item, 3.3, is to review the BTDs. Yeah, go ahead. Is there a question?
Is there a question?
Okay.
No,
No, I thought I heard like a.
I heard something.
Yeah, I did. All right.
All right, I think we're good.
The next item, 3.3, is to review the BTD zoning. So we did review it. What we decided was to recommend preparing amendments to those zoning regulations to ensure that they adequately support the development of affordable housing. We had multiple recommendations in our zoning review to that effect. I don't want to go through them all here now, but they're all in that zoning report. Okay, so that's another area of opportunity. It's unlikely we're going to be able to, or even it's a good idea to try to move forward with everything here. I think ultimately the next set of decision making is figure out what the priorities are. To some extent, we kind of outline it with the updates to our time frame, which we've updated as well for these. So some we have a little earlier than others. And so we do have a little bit of decision making that it's going to be somewhat related to budget available as to which one of these we first pursue and what we try to take on over the next few months or this year. All right.
I have a question, but this I think maybe goes to
Yep.
Maureen. The Village 2 core, the Village Core 2, how many units is that per acre right now?
7.
It is
The
7.
Amendment, you just,
We
changed it.
just-
It's 7 if it has an affordable component.
Yeah,
It remains at 6 if the project does not have one.
okay. All right, I just want to make sure that I still had a good memory of that. Thank you.
So we know that, there have been some recent changes approved. And we also know that you're very cautious about moving too fast in this area. That you're interested in kind of seeing how development takes shape and what the impacts are. So I don't think it's our intention to be very aggressive with this, but we do understand that, you know, it's an area of tremendous opportunity, and it's something that we don't want to take off the list.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, next, your ADUs. In accessory dwelling units. And so, the recommended action of the affordable housing plan was to evaluate what kind of changes could be made. The 2023 zoning review, we provided several recommendations to make these more feasible and to better support affordable housing. In fact, we actually recommend requiring that the units be affordable. So we've updated our recommendation that we go ahead and prepare an amendment to the zoning regulations to make more effective use of ADUs.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, I think most people who go for the ADU are pretty much looking at an elderly parent anyway.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that just sort of goes hand in hand, I think.
Right. The next item, 3.7, is to evaluate potential changes to the PDD district to support affordable housing. And so we've updated that action to read as recommended in 2023 zoning review, prepare an amendment to the zoning regulations to make changes to the PDD district to provide specifications or requirements for affordable housing. And our recommendations within the zoning review included that 20% of residential units developed be deed restricted as affordable for a period of 99 years. Now, I know Maureen's been doing some work with another consultant, Glenn Chalder, and who has some thoughts as well about how that could be structured, whether it's 40 years with some various conditions. So the idea here, I don't want to get stuck on 99 years or anything else. The idea here is that we need to explore this more, figure out what is going to work best, you know, make sure that it's legally defensible as well. And then recommend those changes to your zoning regulations. The PDD district, just a great opportunity, another place to build in affordable housing.
All right, Maureen, another question for you, if I can. The Plan Development District. Give me a sense of where that is. Without a zoning map, I get lost.
So the Plan Development District is actually not a district.
It's not a district.
It's an overlay.
Overlay. No wonder
Or
why I can't figure
A
out where it
floating,
is.
technically it's a floating, more
Floating zone.
technically
It's a
appropriate.
floater, huh?
Yeah, so it's a zone that exists on paper. And if the conditions of your property and project are right, you as a zoning commission can agree that it meets the conditions and the vision for what this zone is intended to achieve. And then you can rezone a property or a number of properties to that zone and allow for the development allowed by that zoning district to take place. So you can place it wherever the conditions are met. And the real power of a floating zone is that even if you have an applicant that comes to you and they meet all of the criteria of the floating zone, you are under no obligation to make that amendment, to make that map change, to basically put that floating zone on the map at all. Versus if it were a base zoning district and the applicant meets all the zoning requirements and standards, you have no basis for denying because you're working in an administrative capacity. And when you're agreeing to place a floating zone on the map and approve it, you're in your legislative capacity, you're in your rulemaking capacity, and you have authority to not take action if it's not the right project or not the right property.
Okay, so it's almost a floating zone with a special permit.
Yeah,
Because
I mean, it's a very
it
high
has to-
standard.
It has to
It's
meet a higher standard, right?
It's a very high standard. It's above and beyond special permit. Typically, the uses you allow in a floating zone are often by special permit as well. So in addition to getting the floating zone approved, there's a separate special permit for the use itself, which is often done concurrently.
Mhm.
There really is no, it's the developer that's gotta come in with the specifications of what this zone would look like. And you have to approve it. And there's quite a lot of documentation that they would need to provide to you, site specific to create such a zone.
Okay. And then one other question, and this is pertaining to the notes that you have at 3.7. It says, the residential units in the PDD be deed restricted as affordable for a period of 99 years. Now, I know you had said that we're gonna have to try to work that in, and that may not be
Yeah.
feasible. Do we even have to say that it's for any set time? Can we just say that they will be deemed as affordable, period? And not state the time, or do you
I-
think legally that would
Yeah.
cause a problem in court?
I think it's critical that we're specific. Otherwise, 30 years from now, the developer or owner could argue that because it wasn't specified that the default sunset period, which is kind of the standard and, sunset period should apply, whether that be like 25 or 30 years, they'd have a basis for an argument.
Okay, so
if-
we couldn't just say like forever and ever and ever, amen?
Well, you could say in perpetuity. I think we land on 99 years because it's a real long time and it's kind of the average shelf life of piece of housing.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Well, I just want to point out that those number of years, and as far as whether it's the number of years at the 99, there was a lot of discussion of that during the OCD on committee meetings. But there's also, as Francisco noted, the consultant we're using for the affordable projects is, he's made comments with regard to 40 years renewable. And so I think there's some room for, at the time you adopt a regulation, to vet that more and listen to the reasons why you would want one or another or any other option, but to put in a time period is a minimum time period
Right.
be acceptable.
We had a lot of ground to cover in putting together the zoning review and these affordable housing update recommendations. So it didn't allow for us to get too far into the details of any one of these individually in terms of, what's the ideal time period, what is supported by the enabling legislation, et cetera. But it's all the kind of the next step that if we were to craft recommended amendment, that's the kind of diligence we would do.
Okay, terrific, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just thinking also that if we want, since we talked about the 99, but since you're talking about other options for the purposes of this document, we don't have to specify. We're gonna, deal with that when we do the text amendment. So if you want to generalize it here, period of more than 40 years, which is a statutory or however, you don't have to peg it in this document to 99 years, I don't think.
Okay.
I'm happy with that.
Okay, leave it.
All right,
Well, let me.
No, I don't know, I would just, I don't know, anyone thoughts, period of 99 years, or you want 40 years or more? Because then they can go to 41 or 40 years in 2 months. I'm almost saying 99 years is fine.
Well, I think that's what
Leave it, yeah,
Francisco's saying is
yeah.
this document, it's the recommendation, and then as he works through the specific wording of the regulation.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
this
right.
is just a guide,
Find
right?
that number.
This doesn't bind us.
Yeah.
This is not a binding document. This is a policy guide, and it directs us, hey, look at this. And if in the course of drafting amendments, we discover there's a better way of doing it, then we're completely enabled to do what is best at that point.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay.
All righty.
All right. Next item is very straightforward, 3.8, which was to evaluate bedroom counts, unit sizes, et cetera.
Yep.
Statute tells us we can't have minimum unit sizes, so we really need to update the zoning regulations. That's a pretty simple fix. It's just remove any reference to minimum unit size. What's more important is we really need to make things a little more flexible. Your bedroom count limitations are very restrictive, very biased against two bedroom units. And we talked about and agreed upon loosening that up a little bit. Okay.
Okay,
All right. So this is items mostly related to POCD, so we update
Yep.
the recommendations of the POCD in that area. Implementation committee, Jim or Maureen, you want to talk a little bit about that?
So I think we actually did discuss this at a P and Z meeting and as well as at the council meeting. So as far as the members that are here go. However, just a quick recap for the order is that the town council recommended was that an implementation committee be formed for the next 10 years to meet quarterly. And
It's 10-year vow. That's a 10-year thing for you.
trying not to tell that to people when they're getting nominated. They wait for that till afterwards. But it's part of the 10-year plan. So there is we did work in a scenario where each commission that appoints somebody, should that person find they can't continue to serve for whatever reason,
they'll have to
then that
pass the crown
commission
over to
would
somebody else.
then ask the town council to nominate the next
Okay.
person in line. It's not,
All right.
yeah, you're not.
Do they
Hold
have
on.
do they have the committee formed now? Do you know?
So at the, each of the
I don't know
boards
what
and
will work.
commissions, the 9 boards and commissions that were asked to participate in the implementation committee are working over the course of this month in early October at their meetings to nominate a member. The membership does have to have, forget what kind of representation you call it. Even the
Yeah,
representation that you need on boards and commissions, to be fair.
Yeah,
Minority representation, thank you. We did vet out that has to happen, so that might take a little tweaking once each board and commission nominates to the town council. We'll be going through that list before we give it to them and working with Kate to determine that. And then on October 24th, we're expecting to present that nomination list to the town council for them to appoint the committee members.
okay.
And hoping that before the end of the year, the committee will have its first meeting.
Well,
Okay,
okay,
Yeah, that's the,
good.
all right, we're good. I don't
Another
wanna-
item,
Yep,
another item
yep,
in progress.
yeah,
Okay. So I'll skip through these non-planning and zoning items.
yeah, we don't want to hear about
or
this.
some- Okay, and we covered this already. This once again is the duration of the deed restriction and looking at extending that in other districts, such as the BTD and for other types of developments. Okay,
Okay. All right,
and that's it.
that's it. Wow,
It is.
that's
So,
good.
Yeah, let me go
I
back
was
to my
afraid you weren't gonna make
presentation.
it.
Yeah. You might even have a chance to get up, stretch your legs, and get something, get a drink of water, before you move
A
on.
drink of something.
Yeah.
Yeah, a shot and a
So-
beer is what we need.
Well, didn't want to have to say that.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, well, that's right, we're on Zoom. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Scratch that, just joking, ha
Yes. So where do we go from here? Well, we talked about this a little bit. We do have some budget available to us, so I think we'll be able to kind of seamlessly move forward when I need to reconvene with Jim and Maureen, figure out exactly where we need to start. But the idea is we'll actually start drafting some zoning amendments, which isn't to say we're going to go into your zoning regulations and start reworking what you have in there. These would be zoning amendment recommendations where we draft the text, everything that would need to be updated, be provided in a memorandum format. And then if it's something ultimately that gets moved to a public hearing, you choose to adopt it, then we insert that language into your zoning regulations. Okay.
yeah.
And
And
language tables, maybe some, you know, illustrations as needed, you know, whatever that material might be to assist in conveying what the expectations are, what the regulations
all right, terrific. Any questions from the commission and guest or committee? I should guess committee. Yeah, she's on the committee, whether she likes it or not. All right, so I guess you have no questions from the committee. So when's the next, we have another meeting coming up?
We don't have one scheduled. We don't have a special meeting scheduled, and that's why I have this slide here to cue us, to prompt us to at least discuss when you would like to reconvene. You know, obviously, assuming we get started next week with reviewing some of these items and starting with looking at the language and seeing what we could draft. We need a couple weeks to get going. We may or may not have something to report back to you with by this time in October. I have to see how things go. So we could potentially hold a date in October. Maybe I come to you as part of one of your regular meetings instead of a special meeting, just to provide an update and put that on the agenda. And then, of course, we could convene again in November. I think at the very least, this warrants at least one meeting and kind of take things from there.
Well, I know that we are going into an election on the 7th of November. So things get a little bit crazy before elections. So, I mean, if we were going to do something in November, which actually might give everyone a lot more breathing room, you may want to go to like the 9th or something. I mean, maybe we could do it before one of the planning and zoning meetings, like we're doing it today.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Okay.
I don't know.
Maureen, do you want to try to pin that down now, or do you want to take this offline and figure it out some point over the next week or so?
I'm just trying to look at the calendars, while
Okay.
I'm listening, and I am actually thinking that perhaps we project for possibly the November 16th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting to do it back to back to that.
Okay.
But leave it for discussion, because I think part of that would have to include how long that meeting would be.
Yeah.
Because, you know, this is a real compact meeting that we anticipated being less than an hour, and therefore we could do it with a back-to-back to the Planning and Zoning Commission. The Planning and Zoning Commission meetings have been rather lengthy for the last couple of months, and adding an hour at
15 minutes.
either end of them would be difficult.
Yeah.
So, but we need to see how much we have on the agendas and what other dates are available. Of course, the week after that is the
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving week. And that first week, like I said, like Chairman Bailey said, we have the election, but they already have a meeting on the 2nd. So
We have a meeting on the 2nd.
you have a meeting on the 2nd and the 16th, to the best of my knowledge.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Well, if we can plan it so that it is prior to the planning and zoning meeting, and we can keep it to an hour. I think that that is the best way to go as opposed to adding in another meeting. You know, if we gotta be
Okay.
here anyway.
You know,
Okay,
yeah, I would think as Francisco gets some of his.
Yep.
um,
yep,
Gets prepared.
Yep.
he'll Be able to define a little better how long he would. like
Yeah.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. This is all just a suggestion, but I would try to see if we could dovetail on this one.
nicely.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so we'll hold that date. And,
Okay.
I'll be coordinating Jim Maureen over the next week and following. So, thank you very much for your time this evening, and,
No problem. Thank you.
I hope to see you all again soon.
Yep, you sure will.
Okay?
Have a good
Good night.
weekend. Bye
Yeah,
for now.
thank you, all of you too. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
I'm sticking around for the next one,
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. Thank you very much.
8:24,
Huh?
8:24 again.
Oh, okay. I need a, okay. Woo. We have a motion to
I
adjourn.
move to adjourn the meeting.
All right.
Second.
Okay, yeah, June has the second, but the motion was made by John Dyken, and then it is currently 6:53. Thank you. Oh, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
As opposed, so moved. It's done. Aye. Zoning. I'm still muted? Okay.
Trying to start the video.
Okay.
Not releasing.
Uh-oh.
Okay, I just have to troubleshoot while the video's not working. Going on.
We can see you now.
Oh, there it is.
Oh,
Needed time.
time to think or process. All right, but welcome everybody to the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Today is September 28th, 2023. Because I'm looking at folks who are on Zoom, I think you guys all know the drill. You know, you keep your cameras on, microphones off, unless you're here to testify or give comment. All right, with that, let's ask for a call to order first. Want to do a call to order?
Roll call.
Roll call.
June Day.
I mean, sorry. Roll call.
Andrew Lou Miller here. Diane George
Here.
Jim Zigmont.
Here.
Ryan Rogan,
Here. Number 2.
Chairman Deely,
Here. Sorry.
Scott Hamel. Steve Biella Jr. asked to be excused, I believe he said,
Yes.
and John Dyken, alternate.
Here.
You have a full quorum of regular members.
Okay, terrific. Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and we'll get this meeting going. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you, everyone. First item on the agenda is a Connecticut General Statute 8-24 Municipal Improvement Referral. And this is regarding Wigwam Road acquisition. And Maureen, what do we know about this?
So, you actually have seen this previously. And there's been a modification to the location, and we actually have Jim Mahoney online who can do a much more thorough job of what has changed.
Okay, Mr. Mahoney.
Thank you.
All
So
right.
you approved this previously, and actually it's, originally we talked about relocation of the public right of way along the abandoned Wigwam Road. And we had deeded, if you recall, part of Wigwam Road to the New Britain Water Department because they were the abutter on either side when we abandoned that section between the end of Nile Sanctuary Lane and Ragged Mountain. So we wanted to create a trail to connect through that area to Ragged Mountain, since we just purchased that piece on Reservoir Road that connects to Timberland. So we can make a connection there. We've been working with the city of New Britain. They're very, cooperative in the effort, but as the lawyers looked at it, the town's original conveyance to New Britain of the abutting land seemed to be a little faulty. So we want to repeat that conveyance. We filed the maps and such, but the deed was really not recorded. So it was a long time ago. So before we relocate the easement, so we can have a trail. And if you remember, the reason we have to relocate it is because part of the old Wigwam Road is now underwater. So the trail wouldn't work very well there. So it's the same thing we talked about before, but before we do all that, we need to deed the former Wigwam Road right-of-way section to the city of New Britain, more officially this time. And that's the step really that we're looking for you to endorse.
Questions from the commission? Anyone? Okay. No. Okay. I think we need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the requested Wigwam Road acquisition modification.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Jorsey. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Millard. Further discussion? All those in
Could I just-
favor? Oh, yep.
Can I just say, it's not an acquisition, it's really a disposition, we're conveying, so I would just suggest we modify the motion to reflect that if possible.
All right.
I'll make that amendment.
Okay,
Thank you.
and does the second concur?
Second with the amendment.
Okay, terrific. Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, so moved. All right.
Thank you very much. Have a good
All
evening.
right, thank you. You too. All right, now we're going into public hearings. We have item one, which, do we have any kind of call for a public hearing before?
We do not.
Okay, great. All right, so the application of 1906 Berlin LLC prepared by Christopher J. Smith Esquire, Alter and Pearson LLC, submitted pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 8-30 Affordable Housing Land Use Appeals. This is the application for the site plan approval to permit 52 units, multifamily residential community Spruce Brook Apartments on real properties known as 1906 Berlin Turnpike. Also 1934 Berlin Turnpike. And this was opened on August 3rd. August 17th, 9th, and September 7th, 9th, and then September 21st, and here we are at September 28th. This is for the site plan, Maureen? Okay, did we,
Public hearings open on the site plan.
okay, the site plan. I guess I was just a little confused about the text amendment. No, it's not on the,
It's closed.
it was closed, okay.
Close out a public.
Okay. Both. Okay. No, that's okay. It sort of skipped out on me, but I knew that we had closed it. All right, thank you for reminding me. All right, so we're on the site plan. I'll give everyone a second to pull out the latest information, I guess. Right. Yes,
We heard back from anything on wetlands yet?
okay.
No, it is.
The public hearing before wetlands is closed, and they do meet again next week. So they may deliberate next week on the application.
Okay. So, and that is pertaining to 1906 or is pertaining to
That's-
both?
That's pertaining to 1676. Remember, there's not an application on 1906 before wetlands currently. It did get referred to wetlands though with regard to the one issue
of the area at the front of the property. And I did go actually stop in to see if we had an update because Attorney Smith, who I see is on, asked me today, he's on remotely on Zoom, did ask me today whether we had any update on the retention of a soil scientist with regard to 1906. And I don't believe that the soil scientist has been hired as of yet. I did check with administrative staff, but Mr. Horrible was not in.
Okay, and 1906, just because a lot of numbers are flying around and I get confused, but 1906 is basically dealing with the development near Holly Court. That's it. Hold on. I need it from staff.
1906 is across from Bruce Brook
Brook Road.
Road.
Okay, and then you have 1676 and 1688.
Is the, what's also called the bungalows, little house living. and
Is that
down
adjacent to?
Holly Court.
Okay. All right. I had them reversed in my notes. Sorry.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So I'm just kind of confused. Why are we even looking at this? It hasn't gone through wetlands yet. I'm just.
Okay.
For clarification, honestly, it's a waste of time. That's how I feel. It's a waste of time. And so we have something from wetlands. I don't see a need to even entertain this until we get a report.
Okay.
So the way the statute reads, and I don't, perhaps applicants counsel, would you like to comment? We did address this last time, and I think you were the one who indicated it. So Chris, if you'd like to speak to that. Welcome. So.
Oh, sorry.
So 19.
Well, good evening, Madam Chairwoman, excuse me, members of the commission, Town Planner Giusti, Town Attorney Capola. I don't know if Mr. Chalder is there, and Mr. Hanfield. For the record, my name is Chris Smith. I'm a land use attorney with the law firm of Alter and Pearson, and appear before you this evening on behalf of the owner applicant, 1906 Berlin LLC. I know that we do have a Madam Chairwoman. We're prepared to, in particular, have Mr. Dan Ville of Zuvik Inc. Review his responses to Mr. Hanfield. He has had conversations with him, but to answer the question that I've been asked to respond to, the state law in Connecticut is that you can file applications with wetlands and zoning simultaneously or contemporaneously, and they have to be processed within the statutory timeframes. If the Planning and Zoning Commission, for whatever reason, closes before the Wetlands Commission, their time period to render decision gets extended out to, and if you run out of time, it gets extended out to a certain time period. It might be 20 days, Attorney Capola, subsequent to the Wetlands Commission making a decision. So to respond to Mr. Zygmunt, again, I think that was you, Mr. Zygmunt, Commissioner.
No, it
I
wasn't
can't.
me, but that's all
Oh,
right.
I can't tell with it. It's just small. I apologize, but I think you raised it. You raised it last time, and it's a legitimate
I raised
question.
it last time, yes.
Yeah, and it's a legitimate question, but that's what the law is. They have to be processed, and you've been kind enough to continue to process it. There was no reason not to under the law, and we do have a statutory time period for you to close the public hearing expiring in a short period of time. So we're trying to respond to all the questions and comments that are coming in. But actually, you have a statutory obligation to process the application while the wetlands application is being processed as well. If they happen to render their decision before you close the hearing or before you close the hearing, that's fine. If you close the hearing and you run out of time to render a decision, that gets extended automatically by statute until a certain time period after the wetlands renders its decision, which is essential and provides a report to you. The statute makes reference to the Wetlands Commission providing a report to you, and effectively that's typically in most towns, that's just the decision. So I don't know, Town Attorney Capola, if that is responsive or not.
So it is responsive. So again, I'll just kind of break it down maybe with a little less legalese, but the bottom line is that what the statute says is that you continue to process the application. The only thing you can't do is you've got to wait until you have that report from wetlands before you render your decision. But it does not indicate that you can't close your public hearing. It doesn't give you, doesn't afford you that ability. So, and I know, I didn't actually realize this until Mr. Zigmont said it, that you've sort of been operating a certain way with regard to this, for some time, I guess, because you have been on the
Forever.
commission for a very long time. But that is, it's wrong. I mean, you don't get to say, we're not going to proceed. That the statute simply does not afford you that. So,
To clarify, and just from my experience with the commission, I think that they've always been, or at least in my experience, been able to continue with the cooperation of the applicants, and therefore it wasn't, they didn't have to make that, the commission didn't have to make the determination that you're not gonna close it. Generally speaking, applicants have just said, we'll leave it open for that, and so you've had that opportunity while I've been here.
so that's a different thing. And
Yeah.
Yeah, well, my question was, can't take testimony after it closed. So testimony is the wetlands. So that's my thing is that, public hearings for testimony, public's supposed to be able to talk about it. If wetlands hasn't responded, then public can't talk about the wetland issue. So that's my question.
you're saying to the Planning and Zoning Commission, the public can't talk about the report received from wetlands. And
Right.
yeah, I mean, I do think that's accurate.
Yeah,
And if you close your public hearing.
can't take no more testimony.
And the report comes in after, you're not taking any testimony with regard to it. I don't, and I know what Attorney Smith's comment to that. I don't know if he wants to comment about that, but, yeah, no, technically that's correct, yeah.
Secondly, right now we got to the 12th. So I just close it to 12th, see wetlands, what they do before the 12th. That's 14 days away. They could maybe do something and give us the testimony while the public hearing is still open.
Yeah, and I do believe that their meeting is next Tuesday. That's
Yeah, the
next
second,
That's the next regular meeting. It's the third.
third.
It's the third.
Okay. So I would close the public hearing right now until see if we get.
Well, I don't think we want,
I
I
don't
don't, we
care.
want to continue. I don't think you want to close the public.
No,
hearing.
I'm sorry, not close.
Oh, okay.
Continue the public hearing right now. I'm sorry, I said close.
No, that's okay. I've been misspeaking tonight too, so.
I read it here, extended to close, but, and that's why I got the close word. But, to move it to, October 12th, continue to the October 12th. We get the information from the wetlands. It might be a late night, but we'll have the information.
So you have, obviously, you've received some information from the consultants for tonight's meeting. We talked about this last Thursday. Really, and I spoke to this. I thought it was ill-advised to wait till the 12th because you had these open issues, and to the extent that you could more narrow the disagreement between the consultants specifically. There has been some back and forth with Mr. Ville and Mr. Hanfield. That was one of the things that was discussed last Thursday for why you actually did continue it to tonight's meeting, as opposed to going all the way out until the 12th. We want to kind of eliminate, I think, in your mind as support on both sides, for the job that lays ahead for the commission. Really, what are those issues in our opinion that, you need to focus on it at this point? So, I don't know, I see that, Danville is on Zoom. Perhaps he wants to take the lead on this because he did submit revised documents and he can update you. Are we not gonna have Brandon tonight?
I sent him a message
Okay.
to chat. I don't recall,
And
but
Mr. Smith, Attorney Smith is raising his hand.
can I just add something to what you said? So my notes from last week's meeting, and as I've been talking to interested parties throughout the week, was I understood that you were afforded the extension to the 12th with the understanding that the deadline for them to bring in and present the modified plans would be today's meeting and explain those to you so that then over the course of between now and wetlands doing their thing, and then actually before the deadline to close the meeting on the 12th, everyone could look at those plans and the modified plans that are being received today and make comments, and Zubix are actually given to us yesterday, I believe. I just put that. But and then the consultants could make comments on it and everything else. If the presentation of the modifications aren't done until the 12th, then it narrows the amount of time for anyone to digest and comment back on them with just that meeting, which may or may not be your intent, but that's the way I've been advising all week, be hearing what what they were responsive to from the last meeting, and then have the opportunity for your consultants as well as yourselves and staff to.
Okay, so I don't think I have, after listening to you, I don't think I have a problem with taking testimony tonight on any changes that were made from last meeting to this meeting. Okay, so both representatives of engineers are here, I guess, and they can say what was changed on the maps, what they agreed to, or what wasn't agreed to, because there was a lot of items that had to be agreed on. And I just want to see how the two parties have got together so far. I understand doing that tonight.
All right,
Good question.
so you had a motion on the floor, so you're withdrawing.
I'm
I wanna
withdrawing
Make
that.
sure
I'm
I'm
withdrawing
cleaning that
motion.
up,
Yeah,
number one.
withdrawing that motion.
Number two, just from my perspective sitting here, it seems that we keep getting, every day we're inundated with information, revise this, revise that. We're at the point where I'm not even sure what map we're supposed to be looking at. And then furthermore, to complicate things, because wetlands is involved and there's questions that are looming there, I'm just wondering, never mind. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I guess I'm a little bit overwhelmed because it's almost like we have to look at something, take testimony on something, but we have to bear in mind that there's another commission that still has to do a review, which may ultimately impact everything that we do. So I kind of feel like a tractor stuck in the mud, and I need a set of chains to get me out of this because there's no clear cut path. It's like everything is so convoluted. I'm wondering how this commission can focus and take in the proper plans, the proper testimony, and just do this in an organized fashion. And that's where my frustration as a commissioner lies. June, did you have your hand up?
Yeah,
Oh.
what I'm hearing mostly is frustration with kind of how things have progressed through the process of this application, and I feel badly about that for both parties because we're doubling and getting lost and so forth. But I don't think it will do harm to listen to what is provided for this evening's meeting and to hear what's being presented so that we can reduce the time that we would spend the next meeting. It would give us time to ask questions, both this meeting and next meeting, and just listen intently.
Okay.
So,
Everyone else? Yeah, Tim?
yeah, would you bringing that up now? Got my mind going again.
No,
Uh,
don't go too fast
I'm-
because we
I'm,
have curfew tonight.
I think I agree with you, Joan, is that we just received a map just now,
Yeah,
at 7 o'clock. I haven't been able to open it up or look at it. All during this process, we said this has been changed, this has been changed, this has been changed, all the way through, okay? And I haven't had a map since I think it was August 28th, that any of those changes were on. And now I have a list here of a bunch of changes, 13 plus 3 paragraphs in between each one, changes at, I don't know, you're right, I don't know how we bring all this information into our head without studying the new map.
Yeah.
Okay, and taking the information we received tonight, bringing it home. I spread it out on my dining room table, and I looked there, and I know I had a lot of stuff to discuss on the old map.
Yeah.
And now I don't know
Yeah.
what I got to discuss on the new map. You know,
all right. Anyone else? So I'm getting the census that we'll go ahead and we'll I mean, does anyone have any comment about, proceeding and listening to see, because this is the new map we've been given, correct? This is the new design, the latest design, so I should disregard everything else?
So what they printed to give to you.
Yeah.
What was digitally sent to us that I don't think I wanted to overwhelm you with those. I don't think I forwarded the digital set. Is the entire plan set. These pages, and I'm sure in their presentation they would explain this, but their pages that are printed are the substitute in pages into the plan set you have. So if it's.
So I don't
I
have
mean,
full
what the
set
page
part.
number is, but if it's.
I have something that was
SP1
September 26th.
or
SP1
SP1, you,
and GP1.
out of the
That's-
plan set that you got previously.
Yeah, I pull those out and insert these.
You take out plan sheet 1, what we do in our file is we put a big cross across it and say, see revised,
Yeah,
and then we lay the new sheet.
yeah,
to
because,
that location.
because in all honesty, we haven't started deliberating this thing at all.
Right,
really
this is
haven't.
Still
Well, it's still public hearing.
presentation for.
All right.
What they're doing to be responsive to the testimony they've heard and the comments they've received from,
Okay,
during the hearings. and-
so in interest of time, we have a Mr., you said Bill?
Bill,
Vale?
Bill.
Bill,
And Bill.
Danville, who's on, okay. So what we're gonna do is we're just going to listen to what the revamp is on these 2 pages. That's because the consultant is here, the one who did the revamp, so that when we go home, we can update the other plans that we have on our dining room tables. And insert these pages into it, pull the old ones out. Okay, all right, so let's go ahead and proceed then.
Chairwoman, if I may, Chris Smith.
Yes,
And I
Yes,
just,
Attorney
yes, as you know, we had, your last meeting was just last Thursday, the 21st of September. And we were instructed to follow up with Mr. Hanfield's comments further to be responsive, as Town Planner Giusti indicated. That's what we did. Within a very short period of time, Mr. Danville of Zubik Inc. Did prepare additional comments. I would respectfully submit to the commission that I do not believe that the site design has been substantially and materially changed. Mr. Hanfield has had a number of questions and comments, all good ones that we've been trying to, that we believe, we've made every effort to be responsive to. And we appreciate his efforts in discussing the issues with Mr. Bill. I would like to just indicate, Madam Chairwoman, just for the record, since it is a public hearing, that Mr. Pat Snow is here in attendance as a representative of the owner applicant. Again, we have Mr. Bill of Zubik Inc., our traffic engineer, Mr. Scott Hesketh of FA Hesketh and Associates is in attendance. If you have any questions for him, as well as Mr. Miller, our planning consultant, AICP planning consultant, is available for any questions if you have questions for him. And just to remind everybody that we're here to also be responsive. One of the commissioners, I'm not going to call you out, Mr. Zigmont, but
Go right ahead.
made reference to the fact that, hey, we're the commission. We'd like to, have some comments, spend some time looking at this. And in our position was that's what we're trying to do. And again, trying to be responsive. And hopefully Mr. Bill will go through the changes, make reference to the plan sheets for you. And hopefully, if you have any questions, you can present them to us and we'll make every effort to respond to them before the October 12th date, which is when we presume this hearing will be continued to. So having said that, thank you very much, Madam Chairwoman. I'll turn it over to Mr. Bill at this
Okay.
point. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Attorney Smith, and welcome, Mr. Bill.
And I asked if Mr. Bill can share his screen. I'm having trouble locating that link.
No problem.
Plan,
Happy
set
to,
the plan set, right?
yeah, happy to do that if we need a visual aid. Thank you, commissioners, town staff, council. For the record, I'm Dan Ville from Zuvik Inc., representing the applicant. I'm the designer of record. Wanted to follow up on, let's see, Glenn Chalder requested some some clarification on the designations and set-asides. So I have, we have revised the sheet SP1 that you have before you. On this sheet, there is added in the bottom corner here a distribution of units at the 60 and 80 percentile affordable levels, and also where and how many ADA accessible units there are in the site. The number of total units in each building is also laid out there. So that's the primary change to SP1, was to respond to Mr. Chalder's request. Let's see. I believe that correspondence from the neighboring property owner regarding confirmation of easements to be provided in our favor, in the applicant's favor, have been supplied to the commission. So they should have that information now.
I don't remember saying.
I don't believe
I
I
don't remember.
copied that. It's an email that I received. I don't think it was sent to the before the meeting.
Okay, it was just an email?
It was an email with a letter attached.
Okay.
Would you like me to read it into the record? Why don't we get through?
Why don't we do the presentation because,
And
yeah,
I did flag it for tonight, so I do have it open, so
okay,
I can read it into the record if you need it.
okay, we'll do that later. Okay,
Comment about it
All
and
Yeah.
right.
just read it.
yeah, you're welcome.
And
Go
so
ahead,
you
Mr. Bill.
should also have a letter dated September 26th, where we respond to as many of Yantic River Consultants' comments as we can. The drainage system comments have all, I believe, now been addressed. And there was a question on the erosion and sediment controls. Temporary containment measures for sediment will be required during construction. You do not have tonight a revised E&S plan. In conversation with Brandon, he made clear that a temporary sediment trap should be shown on the plans. And we are happy to comply with that one. I was not able to get you that this week, but Before you close the public hearing, you will see a sheet from us showing a temporary sediment trap to satisfy that comment. Finally, on the lighting plan previously submitted shows fixtures mounted at 12 feet height, and we have achieved a minimum illumination value which exceeds the Illumination Engineering Society recommendation. You have before you the revised plans. I wanted to speak for a minute about the separation between parking and the central buildings. I'll share my screen again. So we did explore options for increasing the separation between the parking and the buildings, and we think that the dimension of the buildings is final. So I explored instead a protection measure to prevent cars rolling into buildings. So one option, which we would consider at the request of the commission, would be to eliminate the sidewalk in this circular island and install a timber guide rail in front of the buildings to serve as a barrier. We felt in our evaluation of that measure that the sidewalk had more value than the guide rail. However, the commission could make a decision that they would like us to remove this sidewalk, and we would take no exception to that. The handicap ramps, which lead down to the hatched section of the pavement, those would remain. The parking and the traveled ways layout that you've seen in all the plans is consistent with the zoning reg section IX.B and will not result in an adverse impact to substantial public interest. Moving on, I'd like to talk about a letter that was sent to the town by the DOT. So the DOT has now seen the last submission of the plans that you received. They sent a letter with 12 comments requesting additional information be added to our plan. So there's a letter dated September 27th from me. It summarizes that DOT letter and our intents. I will share that with you if you have not had a chance to read it.
Mr. Ville, can you just give us a date on that DOT letter?
I believe the DOT letter is the 26th. Yeah. No, the DOT letter is also the 27th. And
If you could please
we
share that.
understand
I
that-
know I have not seen it, so thank you.
Happy to. Maureen, that was not sent to you, is that correct?
How is that received by me? I don't remember seeing it.
I'm not sure. The letter that I received said CC Berlin Town Planner.
Oh, might be in the mail. And I might not have it yet.
Why don't, Dan, why don't you pull it up and then we can email it to you. I can email it to you now.
Yeah.
But why don't, if you don't have it already from Dot, but if you can pull it up.
Yes, I will work on that.
Thought you had, let me send that to you right now, Maureen.
Would not distribute, it was not distribution to the commission. You should not worry about looking for it because we didn't get it yet. I think it's in the mail. From DOT. We
We
received.
can There we go.
So this letter, from the Department of Transportation, was or is in transit to you as noted at the bottom of the letter. Berlin Planning and Zoning, Maureen was copied on this letter. So if you are not yet in receipt, it is intended for you, and we will. Like I
They
said,
used
share it.
they used our old email. I don't know if it went, that could be it too.
Well, I just emailed it to you,
I've got
Maureen.
it. I've got it on my screen. Thank you.
All right. The essence of the letter is that our preliminary submittal is denied based on 12 comments. The 12 comments, as I said in my letter, nope, there we go. They regard clearing of vegetation within the right-of-way. They ask that we be explicit on our plans as to what vegetation needs to be cleared in the right-of-way. We will delineate those limits to their satisfaction. Comments 2 through 9 refer to the driveway grading, signage, line painting, geometry, guide rail installation, pavement structure, and drainage pipes. So the portion of the driveway that is within the state right-of-way. The intent of the design is to fully comply with those standard design requirements described in their letter. Any unintentional variance from those standards will be addressed to the satisfaction of the department, and all the requested standard sheets will be incorporated into the plan set. Comments 10 through 12 regarding the driveway islands, apron, and signage at the edge of the Berlin Turnpike will be reflected in a future submission to the DOT. We take no exception to those requests. We feel that the site plan submitted to the commission will not be substantially altered in complying with the requests of the DOT in that letter. So I hope that that satisfies concerns about our compliance with the DOT, at least temporarily, until you have a chance to review that correspondence.
Dan, it's Chris Smith for the record. I think that we were asked to provide a set of plans to DOT for their preliminary review. And the reference to a denial is just confirming that an encroachment permit has not been issued at this point. But before anybody can go forward, we would have to submit this additional information to DOT that's provided in their letter, or requested in their letter of September 27th, and obtain an encroachment permit from them. And we cannot do that until after we've received all our local approvals, including any approval required from the Planning and Zoning Commission. Is that correct? And I know Scott is on, Scott Hesketh, our traffic engineer, is on as well.
That's my understanding of the process.
Yes, Chris, this is Scott Hesketh. Yes, they deny until they approve. So until you address all of their comments, their letter typically says you are denied. Once you give them the information requested, they will change that to an approval letter.
But I just want to make clear, Chris Smith, for the record, Madam Chairwoman, that we did not apply for an encroachment permit at this point, that we had sent this over for the preliminary comments as it was requested of us to do. Is that correct, Scott?
That is correct. The package was submitted for preliminary review. Generally, we submit the package, they submit their comments, we revise and resubmit the package. At some point, they will provide to us a letter saying that the plans as submitted are approved. Please submit an application for an encroachment permit. Typically, that's done by the contractor prior to construction.
Thank you, Scott. And just for the record, Chris Smith again, to Dan Ville, relative to the lighting and the separation distance between the parking and the buildings, is it your opinion that the site design as submitted is not going to result in an adverse impact to a substantial public interest as to either lighting or the site plan with the separation of the separation distance as initially proposed relative to the parking in the building?
That's correct.
In that in response to Mr. Hanfield, we're recommending or suggesting a possible alternative that if Mr. Hanfield were to, and more importantly, the commission felt that that was a viable alternative for the commission to address Mr. Hanfield's comments, that we would certainly be willing to do that as a condition of approval. Is that correct? Just to clarify?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that that was clear to the commission. Thank you, Mr. Bill. Sorry to interrupt. I'll let you, please feel free to continue.
I do believe now that I've covered all of the DOT's comments. I think I've covered the content of my last letter. So if the commission has any questions about the site plan before them, I can answer those.
Okay, commission, do you have any questions?
I do.
Okay, all right.
Yes, thank you. Just referencing your response, number 9, a gas line shown on sheets 3 and 5 will be abandoned. So is this just gas lines that you're not needing, or are there other gas lines that will be used? Gas is coming to the units?
There is a single family house on one of the properties now that has a gas
Where is
service.
she?
So it will be removed to support the construction. The new construction, as I understand it, has all electric systems, including heat pump systems. So there will be no gas on site.
Okay, and there were some other questions, yeah. That was it. Tim, did you have a question?
Yes,
No? I thought
the
you.
distribution of handicap units and at market rate units. I don't see on it designations on this plan that you handed us today, saying which one's the captive accessible units.
Sure, I
I
can.
did get
can,
one map here of accessible unit, but that's actually for 1607, whatever it is. I'm assuming that is probably the same here, but that's a 1-bedroom unit. I do not have a 2-bedroom accessible unit map or anything. And this is the stuff that I'm having a problem getting little pieces of stuff. And
I'm sorry, are you asking about the architectural plans? Or
the architectural plan and the architectural plan and where the units are going to be. They're supposed to be marked on the plan. Which ones are handicap? I could see the handicap park places. I do not have units marked. And which ones are 1-bedroom units and which ones are 2-bedroom units. I don't see that either. So I'm just
Okay. So are
questioning.
you able to see my screen?
I see.
Yeah.
I have that distribution.
Okay.
I don't see it on the map though.
So the two bedroom ADA units are in buildings 3 and 4. And buildings 3 and 4 are in the center of the site. So the ground floor of each of these buildings is a 2-bedroom accessible unit, the ground floor of each of those. So those are your 2-bedroom accessibles. The 1-bedroom accessible units are in building 5 and 6. So there is one here on the ground floor with you'll notice that the sidewalk ramp here is a little bit longer. This goes into the accessible unit. And the same thing is true on the back end of building 5. We've got a separate entrance that is graded for the use of this person here. So those are your 4 accessible units, and the affordable units are arranged and distributed in a similar way on this chart.
So all the accessible units are on the first floor?
That's correct.
Ouch.
All right,
Yeah.
Mr. Hamel.
I don't know if I missed this, Madam Chair.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you, sir.
Wait,
Am I on?
yeah, you're on.
So I have a question. I don't know if I missed this or not, but what is the intentions and where would you be putting all this snow if we have a lot of snow without impacting the neighborhood? I mean, where are you able to put this snow if we get a blizzard?
Yeah.
Where are you gonna put this snow on this map where it's not gonna impact any of these neighbors on the melt? I mean, that's a
Yeah.
legitimate question.
Yeah.
I would think. I mean, you have all these parking spots and I understand there's gonna be cars there. I'm looking at this map and you got this big drop in the back. Are you gonna dump the snow over the back of that chain link fence? I mean, I don't understand what you're doing. I have a concern, I have a question. Where is the snow gonna go if you have a blizzard?
Yeah.
Where are you putting the snow?
That's a valid question. Anyone?
Or maybe it won't snow this year. then.
Mis-
Well, yeah, maybe.
Mr., maybe you can pull that up,
Yeah.
Dan, Chris Smith for the
So I-
record, and Pat, between Pat and Dan, you can respond to that?
Question.
Sure, there are a handful of areas available for the stockpiling of snow.
Where?
Recognizing that this is emergency access to the left, there's space here. There is some space here. I recognize that there is a drainage swale behind. There's quite a large area here that's appropriately graded for storage of snow. And this open space as well.
How you go get it over the guardrail? On the middle of it, but
There's
The
the
guy
guide
rail
rail is
right
only
there.
on one side of the driveway here.
the guy rail there, there's a sidewalk there. Just we're going to bring in a payload or something to bring it up and put it somewhere.
Well, you gotta keep it on site unless they truck it off.
No,
Go
I
ahead.
Make a procedural comment. If,
Yeah,
Mr. Ville, if you could please just make sure you retain the marked up plans that you're doing online and send me a copy of the file so that we have the presentation and what you're showing. You don't,
Sure.
otherwise, no way of translating that and it's being shared. Thank you.
are there dumpsters on site with this?
Yes, your dumpster is in the southwest corner. It's over here.
So there's one dumpster for the entire complex. Is that, am I understanding that correctly?
That's correct.
I don't know. Ask the question. How often, Mr. Hamel would like to know how often will it be emptied? Yeah. Yeah, okay, so concern over that, and now Mr. Dyken?
So appreciating for a second that there is available space in theory for maybe a payloader to come in and dump snow. How do we know that that's actually what the company contracted to excavate the snow is gonna, they're actually gonna use those spaces? What's to prevent them from just dumping it in guest spots, as often happens in apartment complexes or complexes like this? I mean, they may not be thinking as clearly as you gentlemen are. I mean, in the middle of a blizzard, they may just be dumping it wherever they can, just for convenience.
Chris Smith, for the record, I would think that the owner, when they contract with the snow removal contractor, that they would ensure that that's what they're going to be doing. And if they're not, then they would get another contractor. But that would be pretty typical, that there would be a plan for the snow removal with the snow removal contractor to have that occur.
So,
Okay,
with this
Tim?
question about snow, your middle square there on the bottom, your 10-foot elevation there, going up to the middle of that property. How does snow go get up 10-foot elevation?
where are you looking at?
Right here,
Just help us out.
right here. Right here.
Oh,
center,
so,
the
okay,
Center circle
sorry.
right there. there's 10-foot elevation right there.
I just want to see the elevation
Uh,
itself.
You can see the elevation right here.
Yeah,
from
one
the
fifty-six.
curb line down and up
okay.
here, go from 60 to
156 to
167.
169.
You know, there's a lot of elevation there that you gotta bring that snow up.
Mr. Bill, can you point on the screen where he's talking about, please?
It's over behind the mailboxes.
Back here, this,
That
That
square,
one right there.
that one
yeah,
right there.
so this is actually a depression area that is a adjacent sort of to a DOT drainage swale. So this area is actually quite a bit lower than the roadway.
The roadway's at 169. And you're going
So
down to
the first floor of the
160.
building is at 169.
You got 10 foot, almost a 10-foot change of elevation. Both sides of this, I would say it's a retention pond or something. That you're gonna be dumping snow into a retention pond. Because it's the lower elevation, like you said. But there's still 10 foot of elevation difference. How
I don't know how he's
you
gonna
go,
work
you
it
go
down.
bring a truck in there, drive it down 10 feet and try to drive it back up.
Yeah, well,
You know, a good question.
all right, so we have that concern. Okay, because I don't want to get caught too much in the mire here, but these are all good comments. June, I saw your finger on the buzzer. You wanted to ring in?
On that topic first, if I may, can I
Oh.
just suggest that they provide, well, as I already asked, for the plan that shows what he's marking.
Yeah,
Perhaps it be submitted with, or a plan submitted with labels.
okay,
and Maybe elevation points.
perfect, thank you. June?
Just a quick question, kind of bouncing off of the earlier trash discussion. Just trying to see safely how they can walk from their buildings to the trash dump, and they would be crossing where the traffic patterns coming into the complex in order to stay on sidewalks. And I don't know if we removing the sidewalk around the buildings.
And then what about the handicap people?
Yeah, they'd have to cross the parking lot to go to the trash
Yeah.
pad. So the safety of using and daily or every other daily, all of these people going to the trash, crossing, parking, not having a consistent sidewalk without crossing the entrance.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else on this side at this point? Okay, well, I just want to keep it moving. So is there any other updates that Mr. Vale wants to share with us regarding this?
No, I believe that I've addressed all the previous comments at this point.
Okay, all righty.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else? Okay, I know we're in the public hearings or anyone, oh, okay.
Mr. Hanfield is online, Madam Chair, so I don't know if he wants to add, because Mr. Ville and Mr. Hanfield, they did have, again, discussions regarding, I think what Mr. Ville just presented, so
Okay,
I'd like to hear from your engineering. consultant.
yes. Does Mr. Hanfield have any comments at this point?
I
regarding-
don't know that I have any comments. Again, for the record, Brandon Hanfield, Yannick River Consultants, professional engineer. I did speak with Mr. Ville today. I did receive the information that was submitted. I was under the understanding that we're trying to work to a nothing outstanding level for the commission from the engineering standpoint. So there's nothing hanging out there. Information was submitted. I have not done a formal review, but I did discuss it with Mr. Ville, and will be issuing a review likely tomorrow to try to get anything outstanding addressed before I think it's your October 12th meeting. So that there's nothing left outstanding, and I think we are working towards it. One thing I did talk about with Mr. Ville was the sidewalk around the center building.
Mhm.
And I didn't feel that sidewalk, there's two things at play here. One is the separation to the building and the safety of cars parked so close to a building. And the second is the lighting from those cars within close proximity to a residence. and their windows. I don't think the sidewalk serves a huge purpose for that actual building. There's only, I think, 6 units total on that building, and the sidewalk serves, I didn't count the number of parking spaces, but I believe it's 18, and maybe even more. Dan, is there actually 14 plus 18? Is that
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, that's correct.
So there's an awful lot of parking spaces around that island that are not going to be needed by that center building. And I thought there was an opportunity to eliminate a sidewalk that likely won't be used to access that building. Add in some safety measures that might justify the reduction in parking, and add in some landscaping that can eliminate the light concern of a parked or a vehicle parking and the close proximity of the windows. So we did discuss that. I think you presented it to the commission as your choice, which I respect because it is your regulation. And I think, in my opinion, the sidewalk itself has less purpose than beefing up the separation, safety measures, and landscaping in that area. So that's one area I did listen to tonight, and I will work with Mr. Ville to try to get there. Other than that, I will need to do a review. I did see the letter from the owner. And so that does address one comment. We just have to determine the authority of that owner. And I think lighting was also discussed. I didn't understand the condition that was offered. I apologize, I didn't catch all the verbiage of that, Mr. Smith, but I think there was a condition in there about lighting. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, Chris Smith, but for the record, I'm sorry, Mr. Hanfield. I don't think I suggested a condition. I apologize, but no, just confirming that the lighting as designed, in the opinion of Mr. Ville, was adequate, and he made reference to the organization with the relative to satisfying or being in compliance with the Illumination Engineering Society's recommendations, and that the regulations as drafted probably are a little provide for overlighting, so to speak, almost like over parking in situations. So that was the point I was just trying to make and asking Mr. Ville that question. Sorry about that.
No, understood. I heard condition, and I just wanted to make sure I understood what was being said.
The reference to the condition, Mr. Hanfield, was relative to the option to provide guardrail, eliminate the sidewalk, and then provide the guardrail around it. Sorry about that.
No, that's
Apologies.
fine. I that's why I wanted to clarify what I was hearing. So I think I was just speaking to that, and
yes,
and I think we can get there on that. So other than that, I just have to take a thorough review. I will respond quickly so that there's adequate time to try to get this to a point where it's on the commission's lap, and I'm not in the way of any decision that can be made.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Zigma, you had a quick
Yes,
question?
I'm wondering about the elimination of sidewalk. Especially when the first floors of those 2 buildings are handicapped.
Yeah.
They want to take a ride out with their handicap wheelchair and take a ride around the parking lot, or see their neighbors. They got to have sidewalks. Okay, they're 2-bedroom units, so there might be 2 handicapped people in a unit. So there's 4 handicapped people that want to ride around on their sidewalk.
Or even if they use
a walker. Or a walker or a cane even, but that's why if you have affordable units with handicap units in it, it's very important to have sidewalks.
Okay, well, I don't think this commission actually made a decision on anything regarding this thing. These are all but they're valid points, and we all hopefully take notes.
I'm looking at 2 pieces of paper here.
Yeah, but we have.
Doesn't tell me too much at all.
Yeah.
I got one with some elevations on it.
But remember, these pages you're supposed to go home and find the original plan and replace
Yeah, and
these
then
pages with.
tear it apart and see
Yeah.
which one's which.
Yeah.
Now I need a full set of maps with all changes on them that I can review. I cannot,
Yeah, I
I
understand.
can't make a decision on something I don't
Well,
have
like I
information
said,
on.
it's almost helter skelter.
Sorry,
We've
but
got, no, no,
been
no.
helter
it's
skelter the whole thing.
Very frustrating.
I think
Yes.
One of the reasons to the theory of substituting only those pages is that if you've made notes and comments on the pages in your packet, you don't have to then transfer it all to a new packet. If that page hasn't been modified, your notes and markings and whatever comments you made on them might still be there. It's just two different ways of approaching a set of plans. They did email us in the full set packet as far as being able to distribute that, so we can certainly distribute that digitally. And then you can, of course, ask if you would like
On the other,
the full set, but that is the theory behind only make a new copy of the pages that are.
I've heard a lot of stuff on these 2 pages. I've heard a lot from our consultant on all the other pages on elevations and a lot of other concerns that they have, guardrails, whatever. And still have my concern that I expressed last week is the elevations to the rear of this property. Okay, you're not gonna firefight the rear of this property. Okay, the 30-foot ladders, and you got the property with a big slope, and a 30-foot ladder is not gonna go to the 3rd floor. So I'm just saying that a ladder truck couldn't get back there or anything. So the 3rd floor windows in back there become non-egress windows because they can't get out. So either you're putting a staircase on the back for egress or something for those 3rd floor rooms up there, which are bedrooms, if I remember correctly. So, we need egress out of those windows there. And the lighting is one of the subjects that I have question about. Curbing, I got questions about. There's a lot of questions.
There's a lot of
Emergency
questions
access.
from all of us, I
but,
think. I know that we're still in the public hearing, so I just want to make sure that I'm giving a chance to the public that is here. If they want to address the commission regarding this application, now would be the time to speak. All right, hearing none. Anyone in Zoom land? Oh, yes, okay. You'd have to use I need your name and address just for the record. And you're right, Mr. Zigmont, we have a lot of questions.
I got a lot of
And,
questions.
Yes.
okay,
Lori Budney, Weathersfield Road, Berlin, Connecticut.
yes.
My question concerning the entrance to the property, isn't that a slope? Doesn't that slope downhill?
Yeah,
That red square that they showed seemed to imply that that's like a level parking area where they could dump the snow. But that's a hillside, unless I'm mistaken.
no, I think,
I can address that.
okay, yes.
Danville for the record. One of the components of this proposal is to fill the site, raise it up to be roughly level with the turnpike. So that area would be suitable for dumping the snow. It would be a little bit more flat than you see it today.
All right, and just to confirm, when we're talking about a fill, the fill that's going to be needed, is it not, how many feet of fill are they going to bring in? They're going to raise it by how much?
It varies across the site.
Can I have an estimate just
Sure,
so we
sure.
can
At
inform
the area of the driveway, in the middle of the driveway, it's about 7 feet. At the rear of the site, the retaining wall is about at the rear of the site is a little over 15 feet.
All right. And they want to raise the rear of the site by 15 feet.
Yeah, the proposed site before you is pretty level. It's designed to be, accessible in certain areas, handicap accessible. It's designed for drainage. It's designed so that car doors don't swing open and smash into other cars. So there were a number of considerations in laying out the parking and buildings to which left us with a fairly level design.
Okay,
So,
yeah, go
Uh,
ahead, Tim.
one thing you start talking about Phil,
Oh,
and
I
it
know.
brings me back to the where the house is sitting on the property. And that's about 18 foot of fill there. That wasn't compacted, wasn't done by
Well-
proper to every two feet to be compacted and stuff. Have you addressed that issue?
I think that's gotta go to.
Yes, the grading plan before you describes a requirement for the placement and compaction of fill. There will be compaction testing during the construction period to ensure that the fill on which we're building is properly compacted in such a way that it should not subside.
I agree with you that the site, where you're bringing the site up 15 feet or whatever you said here. That portion of the site, you are compacting and do it the proper way. The part of the site where the house is, that was backfilled years ago, that was just dumped and dumped and dumped and dumped and no compaction. Has that been addressed? Because that would be have to take out and compact it again. Or something. I don't know what the process would have to be, but it's in order to get the full compaction on it. For those southern buildings. It's gotta be something addressed.
Well, wasn't there a question about old flaggage that was found on the
Old,
site?
yeah, there's old flaggage on there and stuff, but that's wetland flaggage, but the fill site was a
Mhm.
problem when they were building, go filling that property in. The town stopped them, and then there was stuff happening. And it wasn't filled properly.
Uh-huh.
Mr. Snow, to address that
Yes.
question. Mr. Zigman, during a construction, before you ever put a footing in place for the building department has that requirement that we have to show to them that this is soils on the proper compaction. It's not really a zoning or an engineering issue. Would never happen in town. I'm not saying we can't talk about it, but that's just a standard practice in every town and definitely in the town of Berlin where we built it.
Okay.
It's a town of Berlin process. I have no problem copying,
Okay.
putting the town of Berlin process on the plan, but that's just a standard building process.
As long-
All right, okay. No, no,
I
no,
just wanted
understand.
checked.
I just,
Because if the compaction of that property was not done to standards, and I want to check. Now, if the town requires you, that's
But more-
fine.
but more important than this, and let me ask staff. Has this application gone before inland wetlands regarding the flaggage that they have, the old flaggage they found on site?
The second.
So at the last meeting of inland wetlands, it was discussed. And as it stands right now, town staff, Mr. Horrible is looking to engage a soil scientist or a
Okay.
wetland scientist. So he is in the process.
Okay.
That's what I had meant earlier. And we don't know that he's actually engaged someone, retained someone at this point. We think he's still in the process of doing that. So
Okay.
I would imagine there's going to be an update given to the commission on Tuesday. So we should certainly
Yeah,
know the status at that point.
okay.
Just to clarify,
Yeah.
Patrick Snow again, is that our soil scientist that we hired as a professional registered in the state of Connecticut had seen that area and decided it was not a wetlands area. And that report has been sent to the commission. However, the Wetlands Commission is saying, well, we want to verify that.
Yeah.
That's the person they're looking for. Just
Yeah.
so we're clear, we didn't say there's wetlands there. Our scientists is saying there's no wetlands in that area, but.
Okay.
And you
clarify
heard,
the wetlands.
and you heard from the applicant's professional with regard to that. That was Ian Cole at your last meeting.
Mhm. And the other thing is, and again, I will apologize because I have massive amounts of maps at home. And so I haven't had a chance to see and I'm not sure it's been submitted by this applicant or the engineer. If we're raising, if you're coming in with 15 feet of fill, how are, and you have to raise you have to raise and build a platform to put your project on top of it. I'm concerned about the backside and how that now new slope is going to affect the property that it's adjacent to. And so I would really like to know how the engineer is going to address that and stabilize that and what the plans are that they have, because 15 feet, is that ceiling 15 feet? You think 15 feet is high? That's 9, so from
So
the floor
Danville,
there
for
to
the
the
record,
ceiling?
yeah,
say
I'll
again?
be happy to explain. The 15 feet of fill at the back of the site is behind a retaining wall. We will install a retaining wall at the rear of the site. It will be designed and stamped by a professional engineer to perform the duty that you've described of retaining this soil. There's a number of, you know.
How high will this retaining wall be? It's what, you gotta have it 15 feet?
There is a slope at the bottom of the retaining wall, so I think that the wall is less than 15 feet.
And
Can I ask, do you have a plan you can
Yeah.
share that might help on the screen, or
do I
you
have?
weren't prepared to share that screen, so it might be difficult.
No,
Yeah,
no.
And I apologize, because it might be in my sea of papers at home or in this bundle here that I haven't sprung into. But it would be nice to see how you're gonna justify that or reconcile with it, because that's 15 feet is probably from, you think it's from that floor to that ceiling? It's more than that?
Yeah.
Well,
All right.
maybe it's
So
from
there
me to the
is-
door?
There is a
I'm
detail
trying to
sheet.
imagine it.
There is a detail sheet near the end of your plan set. The top of the wall is 168 feet and the bottom of the wall is 154 feet. So that means that on the backside, this wall is 12 feet tall. It is a block wall.
Holy Toledo. Is that it right there?
Can you tell us what what sheet number that is for the people
This
looking?
sheet is Civil Detail 7, CD 7.
Thank you.
And there is gonna be a railing on top of that retaining wall, correct? So people.
I'm
don't
worried about
fall
the
off
people
of
at the
it?
bottom.
The bottom is a wooded area and the top of the wall
That doesn't mean-
is, we do call for actually a chain link fence.
150.
And guide rail as well. So there's guide rail up against the parking spaces and there's a chain link fence to prevent any injury.
Gosh, if you took a tumble, it'd be like falling off a yacht. Go ahead, Mr. Haskell.
Can you bring up maybe GP1? Or I now have that
That's
plan
fine,
set, I
that's
believe.
fine.
There you go. You just passed it.
So the top of the wall is shown here about 168. And the bottom of the wall is about 155, so 13 feet. Depending on where and how you measure it.
All right. Okay, Mr. Hamel.
So, I don't know, again, the question that I have is, what is from the bottom of your flat, we're gonna call it flat land in the back of that, to the top of your rooftop, what is the estimated height total? So are we looking at, what, 60 feet? I mean, what are we looking at? From the bottom, if we're on a flat land, looking up from the back of that property, what's what are we actually looking at? How many feet is that?
I mean, I'm just asking a question because that's what they're gonna look at.
Yeah, because,
Yeah.
all right, well, that's,
So the first floor elevation, the first floor, so the entry to these buildings is all roughly about 170 feet. They're all just about elevation 170. You got 169.6, you got 170, and they're 3 stories tall. So it's 15 plus 3 stories, depending on where you stand and how you measure it.
I guess. 15 plus 3 stories plus 10. So,
hold on, wait a minute, say that again? It's
15
15
for the
feet
retaining wall, 3 stories for the building,
which is
and 10
10
feet
feet
of slope behind the
behind it.
retaining wall.
what?
23 plus 3 stories is, what do we say? 35,
5
35?
plus the
So
peak,
65
whatever it is.
feet?
70 feet. That's my question.
Whoa,
I
all right, we gotta look at that.
I have a
Definitely gotta look at
Joan,
that.
I have a
But-
problem with discussing this thing. I mean, I just off these 2 maps that we have right now. We've come up with a lot of questions and good questions, from the commission. Okay, I don't have architects' pictures. I don't have anything of what this thing is gonna look like. The lighting plan. We had a lighting plan that said they couldn't meet the lighting that we have in our regulations. The vegetation plan, or trees and stuff like that. I don't have that stuff and to me to discuss stuff when I don't have it in front of me is very hard. Especially when I'm just looking at 2 pieces of paper.
Well,
Uh,
in all fairness, Tim, I do hear you, and in all fairness, Tim, like he just wanted to revamp over these, and we have yet to do diligence when we actually start deliberating on this, so,
I'm
I
worried
just-
about due diligence on the 12th.
and we
Just this
will,
one subject.
Yeah.
Is gonna be a bunch of hours on this one project.
Yeah.
And that's why it was so important to me last time, the meeting, that the 2 engineers get together and put their head together and come up with a plan that we can live with, basically. Okay? So far, I haven't seen that plan
Yeah.
that we can live with. So, that's my opinion, and I
yeah.
where to go from.
Well, I mean, yeah, we're just, like I said, we're still in the public hearing here, so, all right, Jennifer?
Do keep in mind, again, and I know it's shown on your agenda. Do keep in mind that the public hearing will need to close on this site plan application on October 12th.
Yes.
Because I think you'll only have, is it 2 days beyond that, Maureen?
Right, 4.
4 days
Mhm.
beyond that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so,
yeah.
And
Please.
well, I think we've given them a lot to think about. Is there anything that you want to add? Okay.
So
Yeah.
And if all our issues aren't addressed for the 12th,
Well,
we can't take more testing
Well, I
and stuff
know.
like that. So it becomes a problem for us and the applicant.
Okay,
Uh,
all right, Ms. Jorsey.
I'm just wondering if Brandon has any follow-up comments for us. I think his earlier testimony is what sticks in my mind the most about the steepness of the slope. And I know that some adjustments have been made by moving the building to sort of lessen the steepness of the slope, but in looking at the topography on this plan, it to me doesn't appear to have sufficiently addressed the concerns that you raised. And so I'm just curious about what Brandon's thoughts are.
Okay, fair question.
Sure. Happy to provide some feedback. Brandon Hanfield for the record, Yannick River Consultants. My initial comments were really related to, yes, the steepness of slopes, and I think 5 or 6 areas. Most of those slopes I addressed directly were greater than 2 to 1. So there were some slopes 1.4, 1.2 to 1. There in this revised plans that they've addressed those slopes that exceed 2 to 1, which in accordance with the 2002 erosion control guidelines would require engineering measures that need to be designed, stamped, and would be outside the bounds of typical site design. So they've come back with a plan that has what I can see all slopes are 2 to 1 or greater. There are slope distances that are 2 to 1 for a good distance. And I think to the right of building 2 and building 1 is a good area to look. The back of those buildings is around 159, 158. The toe of slope is around 150, 148. So you got a 10-foot slope from the bottom of a building there. And I believe if you go to their landscape plan, they do show some stabilization fabric that will be put down on that slope. So they did address it. But yes, there are a lot of very steep slopes. And my main point at this point, and I spoke with Mr. Ville about it earlier, is the amount of fill that will be placed is still a concern, that it's done properly. And because those slopes won't be stable if it's not done properly, and the buildings themselves may not be structurally sound. So information has been added to this plan that you're looking at just off the screen to your top right. That information, it kind of checks the box that they will place it in accordance with a certain specification. But one of the things I did speak about with Mr. Ville is that I think this does warrant, if the application does go forward, a more stringent design and oversight in the field. It is an amount of fill. I think you're even up to 18 feet of fill over existing conditions that will be placed. And those things do happen, but they have to happen correctly, and they have to happen with professional oversight that's not just certified, but also experienced in that level of placement of fill. So one of the things I spoke with Mr. Ville about is the possibility of requiring a third-party design and inspection of that fill. And occasionally, as part of the building permit process, there will be a statement of special inspection that's required if it's outside the purview of a typical building inspector's role. A professional engineer or architect has to oversee that requirement. And in this case, the placement of 18 feet of fill that will be underneath the building might warrant that level of scrutiny, where the commission would ask that the design and placement of that fill is performed by a third party, a geotechnical engineer or some other professional engineer with experience, so that there is reassurance that it was designed properly and done properly. So that is one thing I did speak about. I think it is something that would be warranted here, given the depth of fill and the importance of that fill being placed properly. That kind of reverberates out to the perimeter of the property, where there are steep slopes, but again, if we place them properly, compact them properly, and then vegetate them and stabilize them, the exposed slopes are not that high and they don't take a lot of water. So they are minimizing some risk there. The other thing they brought into this plan is they went from I think a 10-foot wide easement total to I think what is now a 40-foot easement. So I believe it's 25 or 20 and then 15. And so they gave themselves more room to kind of to spread out the slopes and then maintain the bottom or toe of those slopes throughout the duration of construction. So that is a component they added, which did address some of my concerns. So I still think, to answer your question, it is an awful lot of fill. There are steep slopes. And, with proper design and implementation, I think they can be stable, but I think it will require additional measures beyond your typical site plan. And, between a geotechnical engineer and possibly a third-party erosion control specialist, you might get the assurances you need to make sure everything is stable when it's done.
So I have a follow-up question, because I recall that part of your earlier testimony had to do with maintenance and accessibility to the buildings to do maintenance. And so have the changes that have been made relieved that and made that more possible, or is that situation the same?
They did add a shelf around the back of the building. So before it was basically a 2-to-1 slope right up to the foundation. And in that case, it's very difficult to get compaction around the actual concrete structure, and then nobody can get around it. So they did add, I think it's a 4-foot wide shelf around the back. You can see it there with building 1. The 159 contour dies in, the 158 is probably about 6 or 7 feet away. So there's an implied 4 or 5 foot shelf around the back of the building. Go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought Mr. Miller was rejecting. So they did add those shelves, and that's, I think, I can't speak for the applicant, but I believe that's why the easement had to get bigger, is the slopes, between the slopes and the shelf, they had to push grading out further away from the building. What you'll see on my comments now, there's one outstanding comment related to how these buildings will be constructed in terms of the walkout. The architecturals you have show a 6-foot 8 to 7 foot difference in finish grade from front to back. These plans represent a 9 to 10 foot difference in grade from front to back. Those things can be overcome, but if in fact that foundation is only 6'8" from front to back, it will result in 6 feet to 9 feet more disturbance around that building, so further to your right. And that will get into the secondary easement, the temporary easement. So one of the outstanding comments on my letter is related to the architecturals and making sure it's consistent with the grading we're seeing. And right now, front to back, we're missing 3 feet in vertical elevation on this grading plan. So either the architecturals need to represent a higher wall, and which would probably make your stairwells difficult to make work inside, or the grading needs to be adjusted to make sure that the 7 feet of drop is represented on your plans. Either way, that would address the comment, but that is the last outstanding grading comment I have that's not directly related to erosion controls.
So I have one more question about that.
Mm-hmm.
At the slope at the base of the retaining wall is a 10-foot slope. How easily maintained is that going to be? I'm envisioning it as becoming quickly overgrown and unmaintained, with scrub trees coming up probably along this retaining wall that will potentially have impact on its durability in the future.
Yeah, you're correct. So any retaining wall or dam, we have to keep significant vegetation away from to ensure that the root structures don't impact the structure itself. This particular wall, the way they're presenting it, will be reinforced with geogrid, likely. So they're proposing an articulated concrete block wall. They're big blocks, but they're still articulated. It will likely require a geotextile system, and that actually goes behind the wall. So there'll be geogrid laid out and designed within each layer that will project, typically as high as the wall is, the geogrid will go behind the wall. And I don't practice structural engineering, but I did design a number of walls at my former firm, and I've seen a number of walls built, and that's kind of a rule of thumb. So if it's 18 feet high or 14 feet high, you're probably going to see 14 to 18 feet of geogrid rolled out behind that wall, and it'll be in a triangular. So all the support for this wall is behind it, but there will be a requirement to maintain below it. And they do have a very small shelf, but regardless, maintenance of that area and vegetation will be more likely handwork. So weed whacking once a year. And again, that could be something that probably difficult to enforce, but it can be a requirement that it is mowed at a duration that would keep the larger tree and large shrub vegetation down. But you're right, it is difficult to access back there. I did bring that up when it was 1-to-1 slopes or 1 to 1.5. And they couldn't get to the silt fence. But from a maintenance standpoint, that's a correct statement.
I like when people say I'm right.
I didn't know that.
So noted. Yeah, Tim.
I have a problem with these high retaining walls. As I remember, just over line in Newington, where Friendly's is and whatever that
PC Richards.
PC Richards is,
Yeah.
yeah. I know there's a
They collapsed. Yeah.
15-foot wall there, and 5 years later, the wall came down. And it took them another 5 years to put another wall up there. That's where I come, saying, okay, you go have one engineer picked from the town, probably one engineer from the developer, and that's just really not that type of wall that high is so dangerous. And the other thing is without the architecturals and just with looking at this 2-page thing, okay, chain link fence on top of that wall is not going to work. Okay, our commission is into making things look pretty and nice for the future use. Chain link fence is not it. Some type of solid wall up there, some type of architect wall, black architect wall, or whatever else, whatever. I think of our downtown. All our downtowns now with these architectural black fences and stuff like that. That is making a statement downtown.
Yeah.
And I drove down there today and I couldn't believe, just driving down. I know we proved all these things, but when you drive down there and all of a sudden you're looking at it, really looking at it as you're driving, I'm really proud of our downtown now, and it's all because of the we had siding thing, the hardboard siding type thing, that we wanted,
Yeah.
stuff like that in order to get the looks that we want in our town. And that's one of the things we haven't even addressed
Well,
yet.
make sure you put that,
Architecturals.
well, make sure you put that down in your notes, and I know
I
that,
reference for you the Berlin Turnpike Design Guidelines, I think is what is.
Design and
Yeah.
review.
What you're referring
Yeah.
to. The Berlin, you have a document that you've adopted, that's the Berlin Turnpike.
For design and review
Okay.
too, right?
no,
Yeah,
I,
That's design review, and
And
in
if-
that regard on this, you can continue, I just wanted to add that there, but I do
Okay.
have something else to hand out.
all right, go ahead and hand out, because I know that Jennifer wanted to share something with us from before. I just want to give you that opportunity before we,
I think it's actually what's being handed out. It's
Okay.
with regard to the easements,
okay,
Yeah, that'll be good.
and.
a letter that you haven't seen.
So, and we'll have to take the time to do that, but I mean, I do want to be
Ma'am.
mindful of the clock. So, we wanna
I do,
continue on this?
we're talking about the easements of the properties next door and stuff, yeah. On the properties next door, we got 200 and something acres next door that's developable farm.
All right,
yeah.
can we, all right,
It's
I understand. I just want to make sure because it's just, I want to do diligence and I know we have the other applications
it's
to get
something
to.
that we need to do.
So, but no, and that's good. But for,
What we handed out was the letter, it was an email, I'm sorry,
okay,
I think earlier in the meeting, I said it was a letter, because it was attached to an email, and I didn't realize it was an email, but it's the letter to the commission from one of the individuals that's part of the entity that owns the adjacent property, that the applicant referred to earlier as the letter, with regard to the easements. And I can read it into the record, or Logan can as usual. That's up to you. And on the back side of it, it was of the print I made, which is included in the letter, is the attached is the map reference.
Go ahead, Brian.
Sure. Letter to the commission, John, then, no, that's no. To whom it may concern. To whom it may concern, my family and I who own the property abutting the Motel Plaza are aware of the potential easements to be granted on the August 2023 map created by Zuick. Did I say that right? Zuvik Engineering. All parties are willing to review the easement areas and finalize once an approval has been granted by the Berlin Planning and Zoning Commission. Attached is a map reference. Sincerely, John Venziano and family. John Venziano, 488 New Britain Road, Kensington, Connecticut, 06037. Sal Cal Real Estate Connections, 860-828-1783, 860-573-9936.
Okay, thank you. All right, is there anything else before do we have a motion? Yep.
Just with regard to this, this is not what you would typically accept, and we do realize that. Maureen and I talked about it. We both didn't get a chance to even look at it until the end, so I haven't had an opportunity to talk to Attorney Smith. It needs to obviously be at least an notarized statement. You know, I have no idea from looking at this. It says Veneziano, John Veneziano and family. You know, who, again, there's multiple owners there. I don't know who he's representing. You know, so we've got some work to do on this. We do recognize that. So, because I see everybody kind of looking, because we know that this is not what you would typically require.
Yeah.
So we'll talk to Chris about that and try to, you know, get you something that's sufficient, because we understand this is not sufficient.
We just had another application that someone signed something and said, okay, and they didn't have a right to do that. You know, so there's 5 owners, I think it's 5, the owners of this property behind.
All right.
Need everyone to say yes
And
to me.
yes, I don't know, Glenn, do you have any comments after watching this?
Everybody else?
Oh, all right, you're just writing notes.
Come on up.
On down.
Yeah,
Come on
really.
down. The price is right.
Thank you, Glenn.
Stop sharing his screen, or will you need his screen for anything?
You can lead it up just for a second. I think just a couple of things I wanted to mention to the commission tonight. Implication of some of these submittals is that they've addressed the concerns. They haven't yet. We're not fully done. One thing I want to make the commission aware that the table on the bottom of one of those plan sheets that talked about where the affordable units will be. I think we need specific units identified. We've talked about this before. We're still not there yet. If the applicant wants to have this sort of general sense of units in buildings and be able to move them around in the future, I think my recommendation to the commission would be that instead of the 16 affordable units, we need 17 affordable units. And the reason we need those is because once a family becomes ineligible for a unit, they're saying that they would rent the next available unit to an eligible household. Well, that could be months or years in the future, in which case we don't have 30% affordable. So either you specify the units and they're occupied by eligible people, or there's an extra unit that gives them that freedom of float. So the main message, I guess, for you is we're still not there yet on the specification of units. I think I submitted an exhibit at the prior meeting that suggested that. I agree with Attorney Capola's comment about the statement from the abutter. It's really, we agree to talk about this at some time in the future, should the commission decide that they want to approve the project. And I think you can't approve it. You don't have a specific statement that says that they can do what they're showing on the plan. So again, we're doing this whirlpool thing in terms of communication, which results in more paper, and you guys all need to buy another dining room table for your house.
Oh,
Whatever.
definitely.
I think what we
My
need to do,
husband's hoping we'll have Thanksgiving, but I don't see it happening.
hopefully we're done by Thanksgiving, okay? But I think the idea would be for us to try to get to closure here for your benefit, et cetera. But to wrap up these outstanding issues, and those were two I wanted to mention.
I will make a motion to continue.
To continue is to your special meeting that will be held on October the 12th of 2023, Thursday, October 12th.
Correct.
Have the motion by, okay. Wait, okay. All right, so Hamel has the second and Rogan has the motion. In reverse, I gave it. Okay, terrific. So that's that. We could put this away until we.
You gotta
figure out-
vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, so moved. Thank you. It's nice to know you guys have my back. All right, then we have the application of Little House Living LLC prepared by Christopher J. Smith Esquire, Alter and Pearson LLC, submitted pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 8-30G Affordable Housing Land Use Appeals. This is the application for the site plan approval to permit a 20-unit multifamily residential community on real property known as 1676 Berlin Turnpike. This was opened August 3rd, then we had it again August 17th, September 21st. And we have an extension to close provided to October 12th. All right,
Chairman, just for the record.
yes,
I do want to mention, remind that at the last meeting, the applicant gave, or the applicant's attorney, and with his, client's consent. I'm trying to figure out what to say. I'm
I know.
sorry.
No, that's okay. We all have those times.
Did consent to that extension to the 12th, but for this record, I think we should just have him reconfirm that so that we have it on all the records and in all the.
Okay, so we're asking the applicant or the attorney to the applicant,
Yeah.
just that we have the extension until the 12th, October.
It as to,
Wait.
for the record, Chris Smith as to 1906. I believe that's what we're talking about, Berlin Turnpike.
Yes.
As I indicated at the last meeting, my client is granting the extension through October 12th. That's the final extension. So hopefully we did get the comments in and we'll be responding to those for the, in time for you to,
Okay.
we
and
can
that was
address
for-
those at the 12th.
All right, and that
and-
was for 1906.
Madam
And then-
Chair.
Yes,
And similarly for 1676.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, that's similarly, we did consent to an extension with 1676 Berlin Turnpike to that same date, October 12th.
okay,
Yes.
yes, thank you.
What,
Tim,
with that said, we have another 18 days after that. Because this one came in later than the first one. Well, at least it says that on my paperwork here. It says, close provided by 10/12.
extension to
and one
close, yeah.
Extension, 18 more days in the 65. So, I'm just wondering, because of the subjects are so heavy, both of them, that we want to take one on the special meeting and one on a meeting after that, you know what I mean? You know, right now we're late already and, you know, I'm just trying to see if we can
Yeah,
get the schedule here a little bit freed
lighter.
up so we could discuss a little bit more. And, you know, it'd be a better product when we get done if we talk a lot.
Okay, so, well, we already have the motion to continue to October 12th for the first item, which was yeah, on October 12th. We have to act on it as far as closing the public hearing.
Right.
All righty.
Yeah.
Now,
days, but that's.
yeah, and this one, with the 20 units at 1676, we will also have to close, correct, on October 12th. Is that correct for the public hearing?
So far, you have been granted an extension through October 12th for the public hearing to close on that date.
Yes.
Then from the 12th, there the calculations I last made, there would be 18 more days of extension days available. That's the applicant to determine if they provide.
I'm just wondering if we ask the applicant to split this up a little bit because of the workload, you know, and
I see what you're saying.
I don't, you know, it's up to the commission, but I see a
So
lot
you-
of questions coming up.
And for the record, there's a meeting on October 12th, and then your regular meeting in October is on October 19th. 1 week
Okay.
later.
All right, so I will ask the commission what their flavor is. I don't think we have anything scheduled right now for the 19th, right?
We do have a number of pending items that I need to start scheduling, and I do have some of that discussion later in the agenda as far as some guidance as to how you want me to schedule things.
Okay. What's the flavor of the commission?
I'm just looking at what we're not getting to at the
I know.
10:30 mark every last two meetings.
No, I understand what you're saying. It's a valid
Spread
point.
it out a little bit.
So, but I would like to try to see how the rest of the commission feels about that. Do we want to break it down? And if we're going to continue the second item, well, this is going to the
Be the
12th too.
19th.
It would actually go off to the 19th.
So, Mr. Attorney Smith, I'm sorry, Chris. Attorney Smith does have his hand raised. I think he needs to be heard.
Okay.
Right. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman and members of the commission, Town Planner Giusti, Town Attorney Capola, Mr. Chalder, and Mr. Mr. Hanfield's not on with this one. For the record, Chris Smith on behalf of the owner applicant, Little House Living LLC. I hear the comments from the commission, understand them. I just we're down to getting near the end of all the extension periods. This application was filed back in May. We're essentially in October. And I think at the last meeting, a similar conversation came up, and we're just responding to comments at this point in time. Some of us, including myself, cannot be here on October 19th, and we're trying to get this wrapped up and get your input. We appreciate your input with the prior application with the site plan. We really haven't heard that. We've been spending quite a bit of time on the text amendments, and we did get backed up with the agendas with your other work, which we certainly understand and appreciate your efforts here. We did generate responses from Giuliano Associates LLC to your Director of Public Works, Mr. Ahern, who is on the call this evening. I see the Zoom meeting. We did provide responses. He did provide an email response after reviewing those responses, and I don't think it will take that long for us to review those with you, with Mr. Georgia from Giuliano Associates to summarize the material from Giuliano Associates that your director actually reviewed. And thank you, Mr. Director Ahern, for your timeliness and turned around his responses this afternoon. So if we could get those out to the commission for this evening, if you have any further questions, then similar to the prior application, we can provide any responses to outstanding questions that you have for the October 12th meeting, which I think is kind of the game plan. I do think we're down to some of the specifics with the site design. This is, I mean, obviously this is a site development proposal for 1676 that you spent a lot of time on with a market rate application or a non-830G application that is the subject of an appeal that we're well aware of. So I don't think there's any substantial material changes to the site design itself. So from that one that you've spent quite a bit of time on with another application, you know, that dealt with the same property and substantially materially the same site development. So we're hoping that it's not put off further. It's just going to provide less time for us to respond to the commission's comments, quite frankly. And I think that it's not providing you with adequate time or us with adequate time to respond to your questions. But again, this has been in the process for quite a long time now, and it's something that you spent a lot of time on already. And I think it's almost the same site design that you saw before, or very similar to it. So again, we're hoping that we can proceed and just review the comments that we had, and certainly Director Ahern, who is your Director of Public Works for the town, can provide any further comment. But it seems like everybody's here. I don't think it's going to take too long to get that information in. And I presume that will be continued to October 12th as well. So I just wanted to make sure that I express those sentiments to the commission. And thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we'll hear whatever updates we have from communications here, okay? Everyone need a second to,
It's not the same application. The setbacks are not the same. The
okay,
placement of the units are not the same. It's just,
all right, well, let me get my plan out. Is there any updated plan that we should be aware of?
That was handed, the package that was delivered.
That, okay, so this is it. So this is the one I need to look at now. All right, this is this one here, right?
See, Mr.
Georgina.
Georgia is at the podium. I'll let him respond
Yeah.
to any, provide you with a summary of those responses. And again, I know there was a little mix up in getting the information to us from Director Ahern, but we tried to, and I think Mr. Georgia and Giuliano Associates did a fine job in trying to respond to the comments that we received from Director Ahern within that 1 week time period from your last meeting. But we can go over those. Zach can keep it, Mr. Georgia can keep it at a very high level in a summary. And then I am certainly interested in hearing anything further from Director Ahern if he may have some comments. But thank you.
I can make one clarification on that.
Yes,
And protection.
it's a
But
what?
it's just, I just want to clear things up that the applicant did receive those comments back in the beginning of September, but, or what, the date just after they were sent. And unfortunately, their engineer did not receive them from them. You know, we send comments to the applicant. They then need to get disseminated. So I just wanted to clear that up.
So there's, so
There's a conflict of dates they received it, which, you know, in responsiveness, and that's totally understandable as to why the engineer wasn't as responsive. He didn't have the comments, but we had forwarded those comments to Attorney Smith.
So just so that you're not confused as far as dates, so you have August 21st comments from your town engineer, and then you have September 7th as well. And he's gonna be responding to both sets of comments tonight.
Correct.
Okay, all right, hang on.
So if you're looking for documents,
Not, okay, I'm looking at for what?
if you're looking for August 21st from Mr. Ahern, as well as September 7th. Those are the dates, right? But I'm talking about the comments from your town and.
Okay,
yeah, the
hold on.
comments from your town. Well, no, you have a new plan set, but he's gonna address that with you.
So August. Hold on.
Hi, I'm going to introduce myself so I can talk.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Hi, I'm Zach
Hopefully I
George.
can-
I'm Zach Georgina. I am the project engineer with Giuliano Associates, owned and operated by Christopher Giuliano, licensed land surveyor and professional engineer. So what you have before you is a complete drawing set. So you can literally throw away your old packet. This is everything included right there in terms of the drawings themselves. These drawings were updated. They have all been updated. If you look into the revision block, they were updated on the 27th. Down next to where it says Giuliano to the left, just I'm seeing you look next to the stamp, the green stamp. Okay, regardless, they have been recently updated. So we got the actual engineering comments from your town engineer last meeting to our office. We have done a overhaul, got everything squared away, and done our best to address every single one of their comments line by line. We also noticed there was confusion around addressing multiple memos. You'll find that if you follow along with this guy provided to you tonight, we have quite literally your engineer's comments and then our response directly beneath it for easy follow along. So just going to jump right in here. First comment from the town engineer was to provide the required A2 survey that has been included. It was completed by Flynn and Sear. It is page 14 in our drawing set. If you want to just scroll it real quick, just so we can see that it was indeed included. Should be the last one. You're welcome. So here we have the requested drawing included, signed and sealed from Flynn and Sear. This is this survey that's provided to our office for design purposes and is what all of our work is based upon. We were asked to provide finished floor elevations for both the buildings and the garages. Those appear on almost every page. If you look at the individual units, you will see a FF and a GS for finished floor and garage slab. There was a request to include the invert and top of frame elevations for proposed storm structures, including roof drainage pipes. Those have been included on sheet 2, which has all of the stormwater structures on it. Okay. We were also requested to include inverts for top of frame elevations for sanitary structures and piping terminations. These were included on sheet 3, the site utility plans. Next, we were asked to include spot elevations at key locations, i.e. the top of the driveway, walkway, driveway connections, and the swale area to the south between units 17 and 18 in the west corner of the property. These spot grades were included in sheet 2, which addresses site grading and the drainage plan. Part of these we discussed last time was the swale itself, or not swale, the rise itself in the driveway to allow for the Berlin Turnpike stormwaters to be maintained. And you can see spot grades existing are denoted with an X, proposed are with a little T. Just that's our standard denotation between the two of those. All right. We were asked, number 4, to provide elevations for the 2 roof drains discharges from unit 17, as well as associated details on how these discharge points will be constructed with the adjacent slope and stabilized. Elevations were included on sheet 2 with the other stormwater information, as well as a detail was included on sheet 9 of 14 that addresses the cross section of the swale and the proposed riprap lining at the bottom of the swale to extend 10 feet beyond the lower pipe. You can see the detail is on the right side of this page. It is the first detail over the title block. Okay. Number 5 was asked related to provide invert elevations and termination points for the existing 24-inch reinforced concrete pipe that connects the western side of the swale and confirm the flow of the swale off site. We have provided the invert where that pipe is in the swale, as well as the top of frame for the connecting catch basin. That catch basin is a foot lower than the invert of the pipe, meaning flow is indeed off our site. Site lighting and details have been provided. They are sheet 11. If we want to scroll to that. There we go. To this, we're implementing 3 different light structures, essentially poles at key locations to light up intersections and curbs, as well as building mounted lights to address the garages and building compliant doorway entrance lighting. As proposed, the lighting plan is significant. What was my exact phrase? Doesn't matter. But the point is, it meets your requirements. It does not pose any adverse effect to anyone living in here. We've done our due diligence in terms of making sure we do not exceed the maximum and meet the intent for the minimum where required in your regulations. Underground roof drains to be shown wrapped around all structures. That was added to sheet 2. We presently were only tying in one side of the structure, but we have shown the wraps. Number 8 was to show proposed transformer locations, as well as any protection required, example, bollards. Transformer locations are provided by Eversource. We do not control those. And in our experience, Eversource will not invest their time providing us with those locations until there is a completely approved plan through local approval process. So we've had in the past that be a condition of approval to provide that for approval from the town engineer. Essentially, once that's approved, provide Eversource's plan to the town for engineering to sign off on for record keeping. Moving on to number 9, gas line was shown on sheets 3 and 5. we have noted that is to be abandoned, note specifically put onto those two. Site utility plan, sheet 3 shows an existing sanitary line in Holly Court. The request was to essentially show that it was would meet standards, and a previous comment from the sanitation department was to replace this line with an 8-inch pipe. So we will be doing that. It's noted on sheet 3. Number 11, we were asked to increase the sidewalks to 5 feet. Those have been increased. Number 12 was to correct the DOT references from 1817, 1816 to 1818. They've read their drawings. We've updated our DOT details. Those have been made on sheet 10. Number 13, the catch basins and stop sign details on sheet 10 were blurry. We have gotten higher resolution of those details on there to correct that issue. In addition to these comments from your town engineer, we have included a emergency services turning radius analysis. That would be sheet 13. I know there was a concern about getting emergency services vehicles around here. So we have a fire pump truck circling the property, as well as the inclusion of parked full-size sedans on the inside loop to show that there is not a conflict between the sedans parked and the fire truck's ability to navigate around, enter, and exit the site. To this, we maintained a 12-foot lane for this vehicle to travel through, which is actually smaller than the town requires. So if we're able to do it in 12 and we're providing the required 15, this vehicle will have no problem navigating around the site without interacting with any parked vehicles on the inside loop. There was concern about the handicap space for unit 14. This has been widened. If we can jump back to sheet 1. I'm sorry, sheet 2. Sheet 1's my title page. There we go. Unit 14 is the accessible unit. If you can zoom in the bottom left corner a bit there, we actually widened the driveway, and we've provided some bottom left. We've actually widened the driveway for that unit. Correct. Yep, exactly where you are. So we actually widened the driveway for that so we can allow for a full ADA compliant van space without crossing the center line between the two units, so that parking space will no longer have any sort of interaction with the adjoining driveway. Additionally to this plan, we have added display cars to show internal parking along that loop. All these cars utilize the town standard, which is a 23 by 9 foot parking space. We can conservatively get 13 full-size sedans. In my personal experience with street parking over the years, we could probably get closer to 14, but I can comfortably say that we have 13 available spaces for additional parking around this loop. And that more or less covers what, actually, one thing I forgot to mention in my memo now that I'm looking at the drawing, you will notice that we have the purple and green hashing on here. Those are addressing the location of the affordable units. There is a chart just to the left, or sorry, to the right. Yep, that states right above the legend below the north arrow exactly which units are being affordable and at which percentage, income percentage that is. And so our final, this was submitted today. We worked real hard to get this done and got this submitted today. Actually, town engineer had an opportunity to review, and we received at 4:30-ish, plus or minus, his response back, which.
Sorry to interrupt, Zach, but went on to Mr. Giorgio, but I do see that director is here, so I think we can let him speak for himself.
He can speak for himself, absolutely.
Yeah, you probably didn't know that he was on, but he is. Just wanted to make sure you were aware of that.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. The drawings reflect all of my comments with the exception of the transformer locations, and I have no objection to that being a condition. So, actually, they turned this around pretty quickly, and I'm sorry about if my comments didn't get to the engineers sooner, but everything I asked for is in there.
And Madam Chairwoman, and members of the commission, I would just, Chris Smith, for the record, I would just like to note that our traffic engineer, Mr. Scott Hesketh of F.A. Hesketh and Associates, as well as our planning consultant, Brian Miller of the Miller Planning Group, are both also here if you have any questions for them to respond to them tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Commissioners. Brian,
Yeah, just looking at the affordable units and where they're placed right now. I would say that 2/3 of them are right up against the highway, which would be the least desirable units. So I would be, when we consider market rate versus affordable, they're supposed to be distributed so that, you can't tell where they are and everybody has like that same quality of living. So that's an immediate concern of mine. And then the other thing I noticed on sheet 5 of 14 is that where you have delineated for snow storage, it directly interferes with all these plantings that you're going to be putting in the internal part of the project. So your first big snowstorm, you're going to be wiping out all these new plantings. It's 5 of 14.
thank you.
And
Is there anyone-
Commissioner, if I can, Madam Chairwoman,
Yes.
if you have if there are any suggestions as to where to locate the affordable as far as the distribution, more than open to hearing any thoughts on that. And perhaps Mr. Georgia can respond to the other question with the snow storage. And I believe it was sheet 5 of 14, I think I wrote down.
Yeah. And I don't know that we have a suggestion for that as of yet. It's really funny when you look at these plans, because you look at the plans, you go, oh, wow, we have what, 20 units here? And then you realize that these 20 units are going to be on 1.9 acres. So although you're looking at this plan and it's showing all this green space, I mean, let me reference the right thing. And this is just, this is page 5 of 14 again. But I look at this and I see that there's some green space here and stuff. And can you tell me exactly how much green space each unit's going to have?
Well, as this is a community design, it would essentially be the percentage of the lot that's green would be shared.
Well, where is it?
It would be where it's not parked. I believe, hold on.
Is it in the center aisle? So I'm looking into somebody's kitchen window or something?
So you have the center area, anywhere that there is a storm location, our underground galleys are going to be a flat grassed area.
Okay, all right. So can you reference a sheet so I can follow along?
Yeah, so we're looking right at the same sheet, sheet 5. We've got the storm storage up.
514. And so.
So we have green space located behind a row of trees we have planted up front near the drive entrance. We have a green space in a central courtyard right along the back, shielded from the driveway.
All right, can you somehow put the arrow on what I'm supposed to be looking at? Because what I'm looking at is I'm looking at a sea of houses. And I'm just trying to imagine, because I know the property, and I'm trying to imagine coming in after a hard day's of work. Now I have to find my unit, and I'm thinking it's going to take me all of like 6 seconds to go around this thing. I mean, that's how condensed these units are. And I don't see any green area. I don't see any common space. I don't even know how much is the distance between these houses. I mean, are we looking at, so if I'm touching one wall of a house and I'm reaching out to another, am I going to be able to am I looking at like 5 feet between houses?
You're looking at a 10-foot distance between houses.
And that's not a lot. What do you say?
I can't comment on that.
10 feet.
I mean,
and what is that though?
From a personal standpoint, my house is 10 feet from my property line and my neighbor's house is right on that setback. It's not an issue in my mind.
Well, your house is 10 feet from your property line
Right,
and your
it's 10
neighbor
feet.
is How many feet back from,
Two beyond that. They are right on the property line. I'm 12 feet away and I don't see a problem with that, personally speaking.
okay.
I'm not
well,
speaking
I
from a
don't-
professional standpoint with that. That is a personal standpoint.
Yeah, I'm just
have-
trying to imagine, because we do have a sea of houses here and it almost seems like, couldn't we fit another one in here somewhere? I mean. Oh, I do have a tape. Hold on. Hang on. Oh,
Dylan, while you're doing that, can I?
I don't have an idea.
So there's no sidewalk here.
you can just walk off 10 feet from me.
Sidewalks.
There's 10. There's 10. And how far is it here? Was it? So. Yeah, so that's between the houses and each house is what, 2 stories?
Yeah.
So it's gonna be like an alleyway between the houses. I'm just trying to wrap my head around this project, but I mean, that's my observation. And then I have to wonder, like the back of these houses, what's the distance between the property line and the back of the houses that are over, that are gonna be up where Holly Court is? What's
Chris
the-
Smith, for the record, Zach, can you provide that information?
Yeah, absolutely. So to answer specifically the green space, the site is 62% not impervious, so that would all be green, and that's distributed between the houses, between everything. So from an the impervious surface applies to buildings, roads, sidewalks, all of that. So 62% of this site is green, to be planted with grass, trees, what have you. That is based on the impervious surface of the site. So to answer that specifically, in terms of the setback to the property line along Holly Court, it's 15 feet more. Some of them are further away, but 15 feet at the minimum. And we are proposing, and currently is, essentially a solid wall of greenery that we are proposing to replace and maintain the long-term longevity of. So there is a landscape buffer between Holly Court and these proposed buildings.
No,
Yes, I'm sorry.
okay. I have a question.
just-
I see a handicap unit.
Um,
They're all 2-story frame houses. We have an elevator to the second floor in that unit.
There wasn't included architectural specifically for that unit. And not an architect, but my understanding is that does meet the requirements for the ADA with the location of bedroom, turning radiuses, and bathrooms.
Oh, what's gonna happen in the second floor? That's my question.
Spouses, visitors, guests.
Okay. So they're all 2-story. Are they all gonna be similar houses, or do you go, you go come home with a couple extra drinks and not find your house because they're all the same, or what? I don't know.
No, I
I'm just, it's a good question. I mean, are every house gonna be the same? We don't have architecturals on this.
There's no
So I'm trying to,
architecturals in here?
there's no architecturals in.
Oh, okay.
That's why I'm asking the question.
Oh, okay.
Okay, second of all, I have a question about 15-foot 2 inches and 15-foot 5 inches to the rear line. And I will say the other project, they were all moved up away from that rear line. And we
If I
have,
may, just to adjust the architectural specifically, those were previously submitted.
they were previously, we haven't,
That correct. That is a brand new
don't have any
site plan.
architect-
But
don't
the
have any
site,
architectural.
those have been submitted to the
Can we
commission.
pull the architecturals up?
All right, so what you're stating then is that the old architecturals are the same as
Still
the
apply.
new architecturals?
Correct.
Okay, all right.
We submitted one additional architectural for that ADA compliant unit. That is otherwise everything else still applies, that architectural set is the set that would be these structures.
And house number unit 20. I see 41.1 foot to the back, back of the house here. And then the house is only 15 foot away. How's that? Does it jog out? It's a square box.
I believe that 41 feet ties to the roadway in front of it,
Which plan are
To
you
the what?
looking at?
to the roadway there. If you look, I believe that line extends through the building.
Okay,
Tim, which page are you on? I'm sorry.
I'm page.
Which sheet? Oh, lower right hand.
He's on sheet 5. He's looking at
Yep.
unit 20.
Yep.
The dimension he's looking at ties to the parking.
To the
Your,
driveway, okay.
the regulations do call out a distance, request for two
So
parking, so.
again, this house is only 15 feet to commercial property right next door. And that's why I'm asking the question.
That is correct.
What the thing is, okay? And this is 24 feet from the property line on Berlin Turnpike.
That is correct.
Okay, so every house here is 15.5. These are 15.2. Every house along this development is 15 foot off the property line. Or 15 point something off the property line. They don't have any backyard to do anything with. They don't have any grass in the front, basically, because you got all the driveways. And this was the problem. I mean, I've heard this many a times on this project. Is the distance between the back line. And you go put these trees in here, and those trees are go out probably 10-foot radius.
Those trees are currently there. They exist.
Well, I understand. Okay, they're there. Okay, so probably gonna have to cut some branches off to be 15 feet, at least according to your drawing here. You know, so those trees are gonna die because you go destroy them a little bit. So the house is being too that close to the back, the side yards is not reasonable for a homeowner to put a grill out back to cook some hot dogs or
No,
something.
they can't. They can't.
They can't do that, right?
See it
You
happen.
know, so that's the question, you know, these homeowners, my thing is that other other ones we've seen here had some area people can go to and
Like
had a
common area.
gazebo, whatever. And this doesn't have it. So there's no amenities to this at all, to these people.
Just to
No.
clarify, these are rentals, not,
Yeah, but
Rentals, people want to go outside and have a grill and cook their meal and they on a grill. I mean, that's you know, that's normal life. And these, because of 20 units in here, it tightens it up too tight, at least to the backyards. Side yards, 10 feet, I don't think that's enough either, but it's just the way the units are. You know, the number of units in here. I really think this is if the homes were set where someone could use the home, you wouldn't be able to put more than 15 units on this property. You know, that's my opinion.
all right, I believe over to this side, Ms.
Thank
Miller.
you. The question, it's two-story and it's the bedrooms are upstairs.
that is correct.
So no handicapped person can rent these buildings.
That is incorrect.
How can they,
We are,
there's no
unit-
elevator.
unit 14 has been provided as the ADA compliant unit. The revised architectural provided shows a compliant layout,
So
bedroom on the first floor.
out of 20 units, one
There's
is
one.
handicapped.
That is the requirement that was set out by your building department, correct?
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Yes, Mr. Dyken.
Thank you for your input thus far. I just want to talk about sidewalks briefly. Can you show me where maybe I'm missing the map which shows the sidewalks. Can you just, are there sidewalks in particular, the island? Are there sidewalks on the island?
So the sidewalks are located to connect from the driveway to the front doors.
Okay.
They're all individual. There is not a central sidewalk. network.
I'm talking about the perimeter of the island.
Correct, there is not a central sidewalk network.
Okay, so that partly answers my question. When we're talking about the trees, we have shade trees, ornamental trees throughout the property. Are any of these trees located in proximity to any of the sidewalks? And do we know if these trees have roots that primarily just fan out underground? Or is there a potential risk that these trees will raise up any of the sidewalks? Because that's an issue that happens on public streets all the time and creates a tripping hazard. Is that a concern that we have here?
No, the trees are located essentially to be closer to the roadway to provide a spanning shade over the driveway. As stated, the sidewalks are for to connect from the driveway to the house. They're much closer to the structure, not near where these trees are. The species we chose are typically used in Connecticut and recommended by most forestry commissions for parking applications where they're going to be in this closer proximity to paved areas.
So, let's see, what's this? Okay, thank you. Anyone else down that way? So, all right. So if I have a disability, a physical disability, yet I want to see my friend, let's say I live in unit 20 and I want to go over to unit 8. And I have to use a walker or a cane, or maybe I have crutches because I broke my leg. How do I traverse the property? Do I just walk in the roadway to get around? I mean, which way do you want me to go? If I'm living in 20 and I want to go over to the corner of unit 8 on the northerly part.
I wouldn't presume to tell you how to travel safely. I would recommend in that situation, you'd probably want to drive your vehicle to your neighbor on the other side of the property. Perhaps you'd like to walk alongside the roadway, or perhaps cut through any of the available green space. There are options available.
Okay. I guess my point is with this is that I don't see, I mean, I see people existing. I see people coming home, going into their house and existing. But I don't see any sort of sense of quality of life or any sort of sense of community from this design. I just see a design that is heavily laden with homes. They are separate units, so I want to call them a home. I don't want to call them an apartment. So I see them as a smaller home that's being rented for whatever reason. But I just don't feel, I don't feel that without sidewalks, I don't think it's safe. I mean, if you have kids or something that are involved in a market value 2-story, if you have children that come in and they want to play, they have to go out into the street or cut across their neighbor's lawn. And the neighbors are probably gonna get mad by with these kids yelling and screaming, running through the lawn. But there's lots of scenarios that come through. And I just don't see a sense of community. I don't see it as being a safe design. I don't see it as a mentally healthy design. And it sort of just doesn't bring a lot to the table. And I'm not trying to be insulting about it, but I'm just trying to give a perspective. I mean, when we try to do developments, I would hope, and I think that the commission would support me on this, that we really try to take the residential areas that are around us or the properties that are around us into consideration. But we want people to pull into their community, and we want them to have a sense of just of being home. We don't want them to have a sense of it just existing. And so I look for that, and it's just, I don't know how to fix this.
That's some excellent feedback for consideration, Chairwoman.
It's just, I want it to be more. Not homes, but I want it to be more. And I want people to drive by and actually say, wow, did you see that little community there? You know, our son wants to relocate, looking a place to start. You know, maybe we can talk to the office and see if we can get them a rental there. That's what I'm looking for. But anyway, go ahead. Somebody else.
Yeah.
Please.
Okay. I'm looking at unit
15, and 16 and 14. Okay. The driveway between
Ooh,
14 and 15 is 30 foot wide. I'm assuming that's because of the handicap.
ooh.
That is correct.
Okay. Now the driveway for 16 and 17, okay, I think they would go out like this. Now, so all this area between this tree and this tree could be grass. You know, or more grass made there. So I'm just trying to figure out, you know, the side-by-side driveways here. And the side-by-side driveways could go like that and grass could go all the way there. Just like this one's along grass here. You know, I'm just looking at the drawing and trying to get in my mind how a car can back in and out, stuff like that on these things, and especially this handicap unit.
If I may, specifically that location, the reason it's not green space is to allow for easier backup. By having the larger drive parking area there, essentially a jug handle, if you will, off the loop, allows for these units to back up much easier than trying to snake their way out of a single shot driveway. So this does allow for easier traffic circulation for those 4 units.
So how much how much area is between those two driveways, unit 16 and 15?
So the loop itself around there was set to be 24 feet. When extending the driveway, it did widen that slightly. I don't know that number off the top of my head. I would have to check.
Yeah, because it just looks like a little, it appears to look like a little sliver that's dividing the driveway. Unless I'm not seeing that right. Am I reading this right? The area is here.
You want to put a little jug there, that's fine. The back into out of these 2 houses.
Is that supposed to
So
be a
that
greenway?
grass
or
area
is
could
that
be a
supposed
lot
to be
bigger.
gravel, or is
Really,
that-
could you describe a little bit where you're talking about?
All right.
And I'll zoom in
Between
on the screen.
Unit 16
Mhm.
and unit 15.
Mhm.
It appears that there's 2 driveways that parallel each other, right in the corner, right down in the corner. Yeah, keep going down. Yeah, right there.
Mhm.
You see between the purple guy and the guy below? Yeah, so 15, 16. It looks like there's just like a little swath right between 2 driveways, or am I not reading that right?
I'm not.
Where's the driveway?
That's a water line or something.
Maybe that might be gas.
Yeah, so hold on 1 second.
I mean,
So are the 2 driveways combined then? And they're
Are
just
right
like a
to each other.
double width driveway?
I think so.
I don't understand.
Okay, just, you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So essentially, this area is paved driveway. This is what would be a drive aisle up here. So a car right here would be able to back up and go to then enter the primary driveway. Likewise, a vehicle here would be able to back up and loop out to go out the driveway. This area here, this rectangular portion
Yeah,
right here, this is green space with a sidewalk access to the front drive, sidewalk access to the front drive. This here is a green island, right in the middle there. And these lines coming across are utilities to show that you're not trying to plant a tree directly on top of the sanitary line. That we have clearance for those who are planting.
so
If I answered your question.
I think so, but just take it a step further. Where's the driveway for 15 and 16?
The driveway for 15 and 16.
Yeah.
Follow the cursor from this location to this location. This is the driveway that is an 18-foot stall. So it's 18 feet deep. That would allow a vehicle to park in the driveway just in front of the garage. Likewise, right here, if we jump to sheet 2 of the drawing section.
You got a 30-foot wide driveway between 14 or 15. And you have probably another 12-foot, 24-foot driveway here. See what it.
Oh, nice. Post. Yeah, because I can see where your sidewalks are, but I think I'm just with all these. I'm just trying to figure out where my designated. So all this is,
All that is, driveway.
all that's driveway? Oh, switch it. Oh, just. Okay. Yeah, I just have to rethink the space. So actually, if we look at page one of 14, I think that probably clears it up. If we go to page 1 of 14, I think that is going to show you all it's going to show you all the pavement.
1 of 14.
1 of 14, I would go all the way back to that. All right, yeah. See, yeah. That's 1 of 14. So everything there, except for that little blob, all the rest of it is pavement.
And that's not correct.
Yeah. And that
You are saying.
that little kidney bean, that's a green area with a tree in it.
Yes.
Oh, well, I mean, I don't know how else to
No, no,
describe it,
that's a
so,
great describer. I'm not, all right, yes.
okay, a little jelly bean there.
This area here is grass, right to the, let's just say to the right.
So you patch of grass here,
Got grass.
little
here.
patch there,
Then
by
we
the jelly bean.
Come back to more, in the landscaping plan, you see that there are more planting in the rear over here, and then grass to the north.
So looking at this, I guess my area of more concern when it comes to driveways, if you go to the other corner, 8 and 9. If you look at that, if people are parked in front of their driveway and they're trying to back out, there's really nowhere to turn around unless they're going onto the grass. I mean, those two neighbors are gonna be back
Into each other. And then they're gonna get, once they get to the street, they're gonna get hit by the guy going around the island.
That's a tough.
That is gonna be a tough one.
In terms of turn radius, this is sorry, closer. In terms of turn radius, this is perfectly doable in terms of backing up and turning. This is the unfortunate consequence of increasing green space. You'd have a similar situation like this down below if we tried similarly to tighten up and increase green space. Necessarily, this is just an unfortunate consequence where you either have easy drive or grass with some of these locations.
All right, questions, Commission? Yeah, June.
I'm not that familiar with the handicap home and requirements. And you said that the home that you have there satisfies some guidelines. Is there a floor plan? Because the bedroom's on the main floor versus I think the other homes have the bedrooms upstairs. Is that right?
Yeah, so the architectural, A1, I believe that was submitted with tonight's packet. That is the first floor. Yeah. Nope. Right. That right there is the first floor plan for unit 14. Second floor plan would be identical to the other units. So I'm not an architect. My firm does not do architecture. Our expertise stops at foundations. So my understanding is that is compliant, and that would be on an architecture firm.
Okay, anyone? Yes, Mr. Hamel.
What's the grade? How high are these 9 through 15? How much higher are those gonna be than Holly Court?
It looks like I got my work.
Back ones.
Oh,
No,
nice.
I got
Oh, neat.
working on getting there.
Well,
When we're gonna get you a new one.
I know elevations there.
Right, but then she gets more. All right.
What we are looking. One second before, just to correct what Zach had said on the handicap unit, it's only a 2-bedroom. Is the second floor wouldn't be designed exactly as the others. The upstairs is just 1 bedroom, not 2. Just to be clear, because he had said on the most of the other plans, we have 2 bedrooms upstairs, 2 baths and a half bath downstairs. In the handicap plan, we're gonna have a bedroom downstairs, a full bath, and 1 bedroom upstairs with a little bit of a living room area. Just to
Is there gonna
clarify.
be a bathroom upstairs too?
Yes, there would.
So the handicap would have a bedroom and a bath, full bath downstairs, and the upstairs bedroom would have a bath as well, full
Correct,
bath
correct.
and a den. Yes, Mr. Glenn. Oh, no, get some exercise. Those
Yeah.
chairs are not that comfortable.
Like being.
Not those
So
pews.
I know it's like being, in
Those
church.
pews are not good.
No, yes.
I just urge the commission to get a full floor plan for the handicap unit. Oftentimes over the years, communities have seen the fact that libraries turn into bedrooms and other things. So if it's going to function as a 3-bedroom unit, because of the space on the second floor and all the other ones have 2 bedrooms on the second floor, we're talking about a 3-bedroom unit, which is going to have a different parking requirement than a 2-bedroom. So I just think we need to see it.
Yeah.
And actually, maybe that building is a little different. Maybe it's not quite as big on the second floor. It's got 1 bedroom and something upstairs, but I just think to work it all out, so it's all gonna be fine. And that would be
Oh, yeah.
something- And I think we have time between now and the 12th, so.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
I like it.
Anyone? Oh, June.
Hold
Oh,
on.
wait.
So essentially what we're looking at here, this darker contour here is contour, I believe, 120. 2 feet down is the bottom of the court, so we are at 118. Coming up here, we are at 1.
No, not
Oh,
you.
sorry.
No,
Sorry.
I wanted, no, no.
I was doing my,
I'm sorry, I was just trying to
doing
get
my paper.
to stop because I wanted to hear.
Paper.
So you had 118 at Holly Court.
118 Holly Court, and the first floor elevations, these are 2-story units, we are looking at approximately 128. So we are looking at a 10-foot increase between Holly Court and the first floor elevation of the structures. However, the area between these, we are looking to screen. Presently, we do have fully mature arborvitae, evergreen cedars, and there is green space if we.
Goes this way.
So as you can see, this is an aerial overlay of our plan versus 2022 flyover by Google. So you can see the row of arborvitae here. We have our symbols right on top of them. This area right here, shielding Holly Court itself, the road, is currently wooded. So short of its homeowner deciding to clear cut their current wooded area, these units over here would be incredibly well hidden from Holly Court. As we go over here, yes, there is less screening. We are, like we said, trying to maintain these arborvitaes, and we have on our landscaping plan, the stated intent that is contractor duty to make sure that they survive. Typically, we see about 2 years guaranteed survivability. So keeping the contractor online to make sure that they are alive and or replaced with a equally fast growing evergreen.
Okay.
And how about this area? Closer, what does that look at? Nope, come towards me more. Where's,
Is it south of
it looks like 16 and 17.
16, 17? Oh, they're the southerly part.
So right
Yeah,
there,
right.
is that a big drop off I'm looking at, or?
So the grade here is very interesting. This facility here. I can on the aerial. I'm not sure what we're gonna. Yep, yeah, I'm not sure what we're gonna name. And go back. We'll get over there. For some reason, this one's working real well, but it's only one sheet.
Oh, you've got Kensington Auto there too.
Right there.
That's the storage units.
So we have the storage units located right here. We have the front building with their associated storage up here. This area is higher than our area down here. As you get further to the rear of the property, grades essentially meet and then cross, where it is lower over here than over here. However, our site is graded and is proposed to grade, continue to direct water up towards our to the north.
Yeah, that was my question was, where's this water gonna go?
So currently, based on the topography provided by the survey, his water sheets and is directed off his property onto our property, picked up by a swale that travels through our property into a 24-inch reinforced concrete pipe that is then directed into a series of catch basins and pipes and straight lined right out into drawing a blank on the street. Straight into Meadowlands Public stormwater.
Okay, can you run that past me again? You said that it's gonna drain into the swale?
So the question was what is currently happening with the southern property?
Yeah,
The topography of his property causes water to sheet flow onto our property to this swale that goes from his, right where my cursor is here, from his property across our property, back to this location just on his side of the property, that has a 24-inch reinforced concrete pipe that picks that water up and directs it into a series of catch basins and pipes until it gets to the public road in Meadow. Currently, our property does drain in this area to this swale. I know there's been a concern raised about our stormwater system. We are having these two units here and here. They are both proposed that they're going to be collecting and infiltrating, and their overflow is directed into this swale as well as on our property. However, we are redirecting our storm